Hey everyone, today is Thursday, the 6th of May 2021. This is The Gap, episode 564. I'm Luke Lawrie. Joab, Gilroy here. Happy May the Revenge of the 6th be with you. Is that what
That's
today
good.
is?
Yeah, I think that works. I'm pretty sure that is exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Perfect. We nailed it. We are pop culture fiends.
Yeah, it's the 5th here. I guess it works both ways, right? You could go Revenge of the 5th or Revenge of the 6th, or I don't know. Like Mark Hamill used to do like the whole month at one stage. He'd be on Twitter every day going happy like 28th of, and then make something up after
He's
that.
he's a meme lord. Like, I like Mark Hamill's transition into just well-meaning internet troll. I reckon it's fantastic. You know, he's on there talking shit about Star Wars and
Right.
Yeah, Ryan, and like he's making fucking jokes at his own expense. He's just a cool dude. Like, it's unexpected, I think, right? Because it could have gone in a different direction.
Like what,
Right?
Harrison Ford?
Yeah, or Jake Lloyd, or like
Okay.
there's so many different ways it could have gone.
That
Jake
is
Lloyd,
like a
I reckon,
spectrum,
is very
right?
sad. Yeah, right. And Harrison Ford's is very
He's like in the
arrogant.
middle.
Yeah, he's
I feel like he's turned around and sort of embraced it the last like 10 years. He's a bit more on board with it.
Well, I think he didn't like doing Star Wars stuff for a while there, right? But he was still like the Joker in basically every animated fucking show there was.
Right.
Or some parody of the Joker. Like, he was, in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and like, he's got absolutely no problem with taking the piss out of himself. He seems like he's got a really good sense of humor. He just didn't seem to want to talk about Star Wars all that much, which I think I get. Like, it was almost like his character. Remember that episode of Simpsons? Right? He's taken the piss out of himself even there, right? Back when people would come on the Simpsons and they wouldn't really do that. He was like, full blown doing a fucking dinner theater thing. But it seemed like his character, who didn't really want to do Star Wars stuff, sort of was reflected in his attitude outside of, in the public space. But instead, lately, he's just sort of gone in and embraced it, and he just loves the culture, I guess. He's a fucking dork, I guess, is what I'm driving at.
I mean, he grew up a massive nerd, right? So
yeah.
It's just kind of worked out well.
We're dorks.
Yeah.
Dorks are good.
Anyway, it's like not much Star Wars week, I guess. Like the news or anything like that. It was kind of very low key this year.
Pretty odd. I haven't watched The Bad Batch yet, although Johnny Bravo pointed out that it's out. Haven't seen it yet.
Like the whole thing, or are they doing the one a week type?
I have no idea. I assume it's one a week, right? Which actually is timed pretty well because I ran out of shit to watch. I had a really good run going where I was, watching, Captain America and Winter Soldier and Invincible, and now those are gone. And I'm like, well, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Do you know what I've been doing is, have you ever watched Venture Bros?
No.
You should watch Venture Bros. The first couple seasons are funny as piss, but they're like they used to do them in like they do one season every 2.5 years or so, like fucking Rick and Morty style. And so there's like a real difference between the early seasons and the later seasons. Like there's a vast difference. Because like the style of humor, right, over the course of like fucking 3 seasons, a decade has passed, and the concept, the genre of humor, of comedy, just wildly changed. But so it's very different to start off with. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's not like The Office, where you're like, oh, don't watch the first season. Yeah, just don't. Just don't do it. Or The Simpsons or Seinfeld or fucking loads of comedies where you just don't watch the first season. I'd say, actually, don't watch the first season of Venture Bros. But yeah, once you get into it, fucking hell, like the stuff, it is very intricately woven. The like it's still like Rick and Morty shit way before Rick and Morty existed. And it's also like just a pretty funny piss take on the old, like those old pulp adventure cartoons, like G.I. Joe and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it just winds up, working pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say if you're looking for something to watch Venture Bros. That's my conclusion. Also, when they released it all on DVD, they released uncensored versions.
Okay.
And what that gets you is almost exclusively the occasional unbleeped fuck and the word fuck, and you see a lot of cartoon dick for some reason. It's like Game of Thrones stuff in that motherfucker. Like you're like, oh, there's a dong, right? Fair enough. I don't know if I agree with, like, they didn't have to draw that in, but they did. Here we are. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Anyway, it's very funny. And Invincible, fucking good stuff. Good ending. I liked it. What'd you think?
I haven't watched it yet. Still catching up.
You haven't watched any of it?
No, I've watched like not the ending. I'm
Okay.
I don't know how many are there. I've watched maybe like 5 or 6 at this stage.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Fine.
I haven't had a chance to. Yeah.
What the fuck? Who does that?
Anyway, let's kick things on. It's busy. There's a lot of things going on this week. 2 big games have.
You can hear it. You can hear
coming
it,
out.
Listeners, Luke's like, fucking, let's go. Enough of this fucking chit chat bullshit. We got stuff to get to. Okay, like I'm tired of your shit, Joab. Let's fucking churn it along. Let's jump straight into that game you forgot to talk about last week because you didn't put it on the list. And if you don't put it on the list, you never talk about it.
I've already deleted
Chivalry
it. It's gone.
2. Now I don't know what it is. Chivalry 2. Actually, before we get into Chivalry 2, I did say last week that I would play some more Diablo Immortal and come back to talk about whether or not it's as linear as its first impressions were. It's not. It opens up a lot after that. It's actually pretty engaging. Once you get through that really, honestly, terrible fucking prologue shit, it winds up being like you've got other people fighting in the same area. It's sort of like passively always online, and so
you're not fighting other people.
No, you're not fighting them, but they are sort of there fighting alongside you, which is cool. And like it's very seamless the way it works. There's no like, oh, you're loading into the world now. It's just you are in that world with other people. You've got the fucking text box down the bottom of people yapping about fucking nothing. There's something, pretty cool about it. Like it winds up working pretty well. What I want to do is try playing it with the Razer,
the cheaty controls.
The cheaty control, because I don't know. First of all, I got the S21, which is smaller than my fucking hand, and second of all, like I just don't like on-screen controls. There's nothing, like there's no feedback, right? I'm just dragging my fucking thumb around on a screen, right? And so at some point, friction stops the fucking thumb from moving, which is annoying as shit. Whereas on a thumbstick, I can just fucking move that stuff. I don't understand why this is fucking up for debate. Like, it's just bad. On-screen controls are bad. Fuck. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna continue to play it to see how far I can get. I don't know how long the alpha lasts for, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Awesome.
Anyway,
good stuff.
Chivalry 2.
Yep.
Yeah, this had a beta weekend, like 2 weeks ago now, I guess. And I went in so fucking skeptical, because I just figured, eh, I wound up hating Chivalry, and I felt like Mordhau took what Chivalry did and did it better.
Mhm.
And Chivalry, like, they sort of just dug in their fucking heels, right? They were like, well, no, we're doing what we like to do. And if you don't like it, go play something else. Lol, there's nothing else. And then Mordhau comes along, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go play something else then. Chivalry 2, I mean, it's a bit hard to say necessarily, but like yet because it's only a beta weekend. But I had a fucking lot of fun with that game. I mean, it's just those first person melee games, those first person choppers,
Mm.
there's something about them that amuses me to no end. I think there's a strength in the idea. Uh it might not have like perma legs, but it is definitely a spectacular diversion, like the entire concept of the first person chopper. Um and Chivalry 2 does it really well. It looks gorgeous. It's got these giant maps with like loads of objectives, these like multi-layered objectives, and yeah, you just want like run around chopping cunts.
Mm.
It
How does the
is
combat work?
so it's very similar to Chivalry 1, although there's no rainbow move bullshit, so you can't just fucking waggle around infinitely, making yourself impossible to block. That doesn't work anymore. So you chop with left thumbstick. You block, and when you block, you're supposed to block at the point of impact. So you look at the point of impact and block there, and that'll block them, and then you can uh, riposte or whatever. I don't know, parry, riposte. I don't fucking know. I don't know melee words, melee. I don't even know if I'm saying melee right or melee. I don't know. That's how divorced I am from understanding like close quarters sword combat. But yeah, you just wind up in these situations where like if it's one on one, it's a full blown like you feel locked in on this duel, uh, and at the same time in your mind you're aware that at any moment death could be coming from one of the sides, and yeah, you sort of like try to keep that in mind and try to manage your positioning with that like in that regard, and you like move around. We were playing. It didn't seem like the party system was working very well, but we were able to jump into like we just queued at the same. Oh no, we jumped in the same server. The server browser. Me, Drew, Squirrel, and Nathan. And yeah, we're just playing together. We kept getting auto balanced to different teams, but we just changed back again. And yeah, that was pretty like. There's something about team play that sort of changes the landscape of that game.
Mm.
But the other thing that changes the landscape of that game is me and Nate going archers from the fucking get go and just fucking belting cunts from fucking like right in the backfield. You just plop, plop. It must have been aggravating as shit because we weren't missing. And like a miss for us was basically a chest shot, which is still 75 fucking percent of your health. So
Mm.
you'd like half of these dudes on the other team are running into their next fight at 25% health. And the other half ragdoll on the fucking ground with an arrow out their face. It was spectacular. The problem with that right? I don't know what they're supposed to do, right? I don't know what they're supposed to do because that's not like the way
Yeah.
the way
Mordhau had
bow
that
and
problem,
arrow.
right? Mordhau was like 4 fucking
Yeah,
arrows or something to kill someone. You're like, why am I even using this thing? It's fucking
yeah,
useless.
right. But and so you've got to like fucking find some sort of middle ground, but I don't know where that middle ground would be, right? Because like a headshot has to kill, otherwise people are just gonna fucking hate it. And it did in Mordhau, right? I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember.
Um, but like, yeah, copping that much health and the rate at which you can fire, um, turns it into a situation like that's just not how bows and arrows were used back then, right? Like they weren't just like fired. Robin
Like
Hood was
Robin Hood, yeah.
a fairy tale, right? Like it's a legend. It never happened. Like longbow dudes, they stood at the back and like fucking fired from ages away, just
Yeah.
raining death. They weren't fucking standing on the front line, fucking popping cunts. Like they're fucking medieval John Wick or some shit. But that's basically what we were doing. And yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to do anything about that, really. I don't know what you're supposed to do to balance that.
Guns.
Entertaining though. Entertaining. Yeah.
Lots of
Anyway,
guns.
Chivalry 2. I'm far yeah, lots. I'm far more like optimistic about
Yeah.
where Chivalry 2 is at now than I was before I played it.
Mm.
So if they do an open beta, uh, definitely jump in and have a squiz. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's
Anyway.
going to be interesting, right? To see if, like, because what happened with Mordhau was it was the chivalry base that went, we're fucking out, right? Like, we don't want any of this. And so they went to Mordhau, and like, is there gonna be enough to get people to come back? Like, I don't know what the Mordhau community is like now. I assume it's not super popular.
I believe it's just super racist. I mean, it's
Right.
already pretty racist. So I mean, what's the deal with that shit?
It's doing okay. It's 6,000 players, like right now. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's hell let loose numbers.
That's better than what I expected. Anyway, sorry, you
What
guys
is
say?
it with medieval games wind up like just attracting racists en masse? And it's
I think
weird.
it's, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just gamers being dickheads.
Gamers. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
In general.
In general.
Anyway. Are you wearing a Vault Tech shirt, hoodie or something? Fallout 76 hoodie?
Yes.
You are. I can see like some like it looks like it's inside out. It's like a circle with some lines. Right.
Yeah.
It's fucking doing my head in. I was like, classic Joab, loving that Fallout 76.
Loves Fallout 76.
I actually have to jump in and check that out when I get some free time because I liked what I played when they rebooted it. They made it Fallouty again. Anyway. All right, Chivalry 2. Awesome stuff. Let's move on to Elite Dangerous, which I believe you're still playing, but I am also playing at the moment.
But we're not playing together for some reason, despite my best efforts.
Well, I was busy over the last week working on stuff. Anyway, I've had some free time. I've managed to fire up the game, and so the last time I played, I had a lot of problems with my HOTAS setup. For people who don't know, it is a joystick and a throttle sort of combo for flight simulators, space sims, that sort of stuff. And basically, what had happened is the person that had like this guide up for setting all the button combinations up and all that sort of thing had like 2 years ago moved on to a new setup. But it was like, hey, here is like it's still working. I sort of like I update it and like the community sort of helps and blah blah blah. But then is it Frontier Developments? I think is their studio name.
Yep.
Put out an
Frontier
update, a major update, which changed the sort of INI file for the key mapping, and like completely redid the key mappings, and then so that actual guide didn't work anymore because everything had been jumbled around. And I didn't know that. Like I'm sitting there trying to play this thing, and fucking my ship is spinning around, all this weird stuff is going on, and at that stage I was like, I don't want to sit here and rebind all this stuff. Like, for people who don't know, these things have so many buttons on them. There's like 190 programmable buttons. It's stupid. It's insane. Like you get reference sheets for these things because there's just so many buttons, and it tells you like this button does this thing and that sort of stuff. So I ended up basically bailing on that one. Spent way too much time trying to figure it out. So I've since gone back. He has not updated the config, but it looks like people have figured ways around to getting it working. And so basically there was another key mapping that someone did for I've got a X55 Rhino made by Mad Catz, and since that has been released, Logitech came in and bought Mad Catz at one stage, re-released that setup, called it the X56, but didn't really do anything different to it. It kind of, they like changed the colors of the like the look of it, and changed the mine glows green. I think theirs glows blue because they're Logitech.
Sure.
And I think it's got maybe like one or two buttons that are like work a little bit differently, but for the most part, it is the same thing. And so what you can actually do is grab the X56 config, go into the INI file, change like any instances where it says X56 and change it to X55, and Elite Dangerous will pick that up and be like, oh yeah, cool. And just plug it straight into the thing will work. This is a workaround that a lot of games have been doing, like Microsoft Flight Simulator did the same thing, because they're literally the same fucking, they're the same device. They've just like stopped people from using it. And the thing is that Microsoft Flight Simulator had proper setups, like actual configs that you could go in and use, but they were like, we're supporting the latest Logitech, like X56, but people with the X55 couldn't go in there and use it because they weren't supported, even though it was the same actual device. It was just this, seemed like a cash grab type thing to make people go buy the new thing. Anyway, so I got it up and running. I was working my way through the training. The hardest thing about getting a setup like this going is playing the game and basically just learning the buttons, because that is, it's like giving someone a controller, an Xbox controller that's never played a console game before, and being like, all right, X jumps, square is attack, circle is roll, and triangle is to use your item. There's also two triggers up here, there's two triggers here, and there's some directional buttons. And like whenever there's a prompt on the screen that says like press X to do this, like the person has to look down at their controller and be like, all right, X, cool. And they press it, and that takes them a couple seconds to figure out. Whereas that's kind of like what it is playing with a HOTAS thing and trying to learn the buttons, is it jumps up and says, press joystick 7 to ignite boosters. And you're like, all right, which one is fucking joystick 7? Like, all right, there's like 65 buttons on this thing. Let's go. And so a lot of that initial thing is looking at your reference card, being like, what is joystick 7? Okay, it's that button. Cool, I press that and it goes. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I know what that is. Or like there's little toggles on my throttle, and I can flick them up and down and be like, all right, well, I know this is to deploy my hard points, and this one will deploy my cargo bay, and this one here is going to make my my auto flight switch on and off, and things like that. And eventually you start going through these tutorials, learning the buttons, and eventually that stuff is just sort of like you just know it now. It's just there. So that's kind of the process that I was going through, learning how to fly, learning how to
Yeah, it's like a language, right? You got to
yeah,
learn that language.
learning the targeting systems, learning how to land, dock, and leave docking stations, and then like all the buttons that are associated with that, so that like when I fucking there was one instance where I was leaving the dock and I forgot to pull my throttle back, and so I left the landing pad and just fucking took off because my throttle was all the way up to like maximum thrust, and I was like shit, just like bouncing around on the inside of this dock. So it's like just yeah, it's like you said, learning the language of the game and what button combinations do certain things. So I've done all the basic training. I went in and did a bunch of the advanced training as well, just to learn a bit more about that. I think that stuff is done really well. What the game does extremely poorly is the stuff you're supposed to do in the game, because it just kind of is like fucking good luck. Here you go. Here's a notice board. Here are all the things you can do at this starting location, and it's generally the stuff there is like mining, trading resources, going out looking for pirates, and that sort of thing. The problem is that the ship that you're given at the very start doesn't really have the capabilities to do some of those things. So if I look at it and I'm like, I want to go do mining, you can't do mining because you don't have mining lasers on this ship. And so, but the game doesn't tell you that. I know that because I've played this game before.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tell you. And so you're the type of person that's like, oh, I'm going to do mining because it's literally the first thing that's on my screen. Like it's the first option. All right, cool. You can go do that. And then you disappear and spend, 20 minutes flying to the wherever it is you need to go. Yeah. And then you're like, all right, well, how the fuck, where am I? Like, why have I got lasers? Where are my mining tools and all that? Oh, well, you don't have any because you don't have that. And you don't have a big enough cargo bay and all this stuff. I think it just does an extremely bad job of like slowly ramping you up to be like, here are all the things you can do.
You didn't see anything like I sort of talked about this in my video that I chucked up late last week. That I felt like I didn't have a great idea of what I was meant to do outside of what I was doing, which was bounty hunting, right? Which is what I've always done.
Yeah.
I know that there's something called the Road to Riches.
Okay. It's like a mission or something?
Yeah, like a set of missions or something like that. I know these things exist. I just have no idea how to get access to them or how to begin on them. I can't work it out, and I feel like the game doesn't tell you. But I wondered if it was because, and I think this might be the case for you as well, like because you played the game before.
No, because I have started a brand new character. I've deleted my save, and
I didn't. So you reckon that deletes your entire profile?
I think so, because there's a mission that pops up when you first start the game, and I can't remember what it's like. Welcome to something. Welcome to fucking space. I don't know. And it's supposed to send you to another starport where you hand in credits and you get like, I don't know, 10,000 credits or something like that. But the guy also says to you like, hey, here's the mission board. Check the contracts and see if there's anything that you want to go out and do. Like these are the things you need to go out and do. And then the one that, so I was like, I don't need to do mining, so I'm going to do the pirate stuff. I'm going to go find these two people that it wants me to go find. And so I picked them up.
No, you didn't.
And so I picked them up, went to the location where it wanted me to go, and I'm like, I don't even know how to fucking find these people. And you've basically got to like, it doesn't teach you like, oh, you need to scan the nav beacon and then like search for their fucking ship's signatures or something. Like it doesn't explain any of this stuff. And so I gave up after like fucking 30 minutes of flying through each system or through each planet in the star system to try and like I was just blasting ships at that stage, like wanted ships, I was nearly getting shredded. Clearly I wasn't supposed to be fighting those things because the amount of money that I got was dumb. It was like 15 times more than what the mission was that I was supposed to be on. And this thing, was taking no damage at all and destroying the fuck out of me. The only reason I survived was because there was some other ships around,
FSS,
cops,
yeah.
space
Yep.
cops helping me.
Space cops. Yep.
Anyway, so like that was a complete disaster. And I was like, I'm just going to wait until I can play with Joab so he can tell me what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. Because it's such a bad job at explaining things.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I've literally no idea how I'm supposed to get into doing anything different to what I'm doing.
Yeah, than contracts or that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the contracts I'm doing are I don't take contracts. Like, I don't know how. I've heard that there's like deep core mining or some shit that is apparently really cool and really profitable, and you're basically like flying up like fucking Armageddon and blowing up fucking asteroids, and then taking what they unleash. Apparently, it's fucking rad as shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I have zero fucking clue on how the fuck to do any of it. So I don't know. Like the it's one of those problems where I could probably pretty easily find out by jumping on YouTube, right? I just Google. But the game should tell me some of this shit.
Yeah.
I shouldn't there's
shouldn't
no
have to watch a 30-minute YouTube video on, which is what I was doing to try to figure out how I'm supposed to be fighting these space pirates, because I didn't know. And it's like, you got to scan nav beacons, and then once you do that, it'll tell you where their ship signature is. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
under no circumstances should you be taking fucking execution missions. Holy shit. Yeah.
So that's a fault of the game, right? That is
100%
showing up in literally the objective board in the first stars port that I'm at.
It's a fault that they haven't fixed in 6 years. You know, like, it's been 6 years and they still haven't fixed it. Which I think is 6 years, 7 years nearly. Which I think is important. You know, it's a pretty big deal that they still haven't fixed that, because that was what it was like when the game first launched. And they just haven't done anything about that. And in some ways, I think I don't think, I know, having gone and watched a bunch of shit, I know that there is a very robust community of very invested like YouTubers creating everything they can to explain the ins and outs and do.
So you think like
the job that Elite
developers are like outsourcing work for free though?
But the YouTubers, I guess, get YouTube revenue at some point. I mean, I don't, but at some point you get YouTube revenue when you become a partner. Maybe that's the fucking bargain. And so I think, if that is the case, it's sort of like a symbiotic relationship. And so they can't divorce the two, but at the very least, I wonder if perhaps Elite Frontier should do a better job of integrating that shit into the fucking game, or pointing into it in a way where I don't fucking wind up Googling whatever the fuck. There are some really good content creators who are making some fucking fantastic shit. Let me see. There's one in particular that I keep going back to. It's like ED tutorials or something like that. Let me see. I'll have to look in my history. That'll be the easiest way to do it. Good. This is what I like about the shift to YouTube music.youtube, is that my history is now a long list of everything I've listened to, and seeing how I listen to fucking 8 hours of music a day while I'm writing. Fantastic.
Is there a search button? 15 should be search
hours.
on there.
Search, is this search? It doesn't matter. I found it. ED tutorials by Exigious. Yeah, fantastic shit. Like, just fucking loads and loads and loads of fucking tutorials for every little different thing that happens. Really good resource. Definitely worth checking out.
Nice.
But yeah. Anyway, shouldn't have to do that though, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It shouldn't come down to that. But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
how like do you feel like you know enough to jump in a spaceship, a much, much, much larger spaceship, and join me in space? Because
I need money right at this stage.
we can
I
we
guess
can
I've got
earn you so much
100,000
money.
space credits. I don't know
You
what to use them
actually
on.
you get more money flying in a wing just by default. I think you get like a 25% bump
Hmm.
in money and rep. And we would be in a wing if you were in my ship for whatever reason, even though it's not technically a wing. So yeah, there's that. So you'll get more money, and plus, I can blow up ships that will make you 40 to 50 times what you currently have with one explosion, plus everything else that you would get out of that. You'd be in a brand new ship after one bounty.
Yeah.
Easy, easy. I mean, you could probably buy an eagle right now, to be honest, and outfit
Right.
it with some stuff. But
How is the space travel situation work? Like, what does that involve? Like, if we want to team up, do we have to, like, am I
be in
going
the
from
same
where I
system and stuff.
am, or like,
I
does it
have
just
no idea.
spawn me? Fucking, like, am I gonna spend 3 days sitting there jumping from fucking star system to star system?
I'm pretty close to Fed space, so we wouldn't be too far away from one another anyway, I think. But I have no idea,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure Elite won't tell us.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to work it out.
I feel like on the menu there's like a button that says like group play or something like that. Because I've been playing solo
Yeah.
play. I haven't been
Yep.
touching online. Or I think there's other players around, but they're not like I'm in PvE or something like that. I don't know. I honestly I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we should jump in and check some Flay game out. I got
For
some
sure.
time now. Cool. All right. Anything else
Nice.
to add for that?
Go watch my video. Yeah, I think it wound up. It turned out pretty good in the end. Maybe maybe I didn't use enough footage. I recorded all the footage in VR.
Yeah.
I was doing really well. I was doing really well at playing in VR. It's a fucking awesome game in VR. I was doing really well at it until I decided to show off the like roaming around on the ground. Like you jump in a space buggy and you can go scooting around in the space buggy. And I hit a bump and did like a fucking tumble and spin, and I'm like, oh, cool. Well, now I need to vomit. That would be VR over.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, and it also you can't do. There's a maneuver called a boost turn where you boost. You turn off flight assist. You boost. So that you can boost, so that you like flight assist sort of manages your thrust and momentum, so that you will sort of not careen off into space forever. You can turn that off pretty easily. I've got it mapped to a button, so I can do it quickly. So you boost, you turn off flight assist, you turn, you boost again, and you're able to like fucking quickly do a 180, like fucking Star Wars style, which is
Drifting,
good.
space drifting.
It's space drifting. It's unbelievably important in dogfighting, but it's not something I was keen to do in VR at all, because it gets a little wobbly, and the speed at which you fucking flip. I don't think it'd be an experience you'd want in VR.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's fucking rad in VR.
Cool. I think for me it'd be I'd need to get a lot more familiar with the controls, because I
Right.
still need to be able to see them at this point.
I still need to fucking when I'm trying to pop my landing gear down, I have to like lean my head back, and there's like this
Uh,
tiny sliver you can see underneath the thing, and like you're like, oh, there is my L key because I've got everything bound to the fucking control pad except for a few minor things, and I can do
Yeah.
most things. I think I could probably do landing gear using the in-game interface as well, but
voice comms.
I turned it all off.
Yeah.
Something's happened, and it doesn't recognize my voice anymore as
Right.
well, or it's recognizing like what was happening was every time I would like tap on my keyboard, uh, like type on a different screen, like I'm just sitting there in space, blah, 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 it would recognize like multiple clicks as gear, and so that would put my gear up or down, and suddenly I'd be flying around with my fucking gear up or down. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is this shit? And
Hmm.
it was recognizing a lot of stuff, like a lot of button clicks as that, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, let's move on to Second Extinction, which I talked about last week. This is a co-op. First person is first person. I can't even fucking remember. I think it's first person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
must
very
be.
memorable.
Yeah. Shooter in the same sort of vein as like a Left 4 Dead. Or we talked about like Back for Blood or like Vermintide, where you're given objectives to go out and do in this world, and you're facing hordes of enemies. In this case, it is space dinosaurs who have different attacks and abilities. And then you're completing various tasks while earning experience to unlock new weapons and new abilities and that sort of stuff to go along with your character. And so you and I jumped in to play some co-op. It was just the two of us. There's up to 3 players that can jump in and do this, but we seem to be doing, I'd say, pretty good. Like, I didn't really
Yeah.
struggle at all with the two of
No.
us. We played for a couple hours, a few missions, pretty
Yep.
basic stuff. This is in early access and it's available on Game Pass if you want to check it out. So we were playing on PC, but it is on console. I think it's on console. I'm not going to say anymore because I don't fucking know.
I know shit about this game, eh?
Yeah, but I know it is out on other places like Steam and that sort of thing. But it's basically an early access game that is available to play right now. Anyway, I think last week when I talked about it, I said it does feel pretty early at this stage. Like things work. There's a couple of stuff that is a bit clunky, but I think I said that it was sort of a bit bare bones. Like there wasn't really a lot going
Yep.
on in this world. It felt pretty empty.
Yep.
So you've had a chance to. I guess I've had a chance to play a bit more of it as well now. I think I spent about 30 minutes, 20 minutes last time, but now that I've had a couple hours in it, like what are your sort of initial thoughts of Second Extinction?
Yeah, it feels too low energy
Hmm.
for me. Like uh
Like it doesn't get hectic enough.
it's not even close to hectic enough, and
Hmm.
it feels like it's a question of balance, right? Like the amount of damage you can wind up taking from some of these fucking dinosaurs is a lot. But there's never a lot of them, and I feel like that is one of those things that these horde style games really need is lots of. I think lots of enemies doing a little amount of damage is
Sure.
better than a few enemies doing a lot of damage, because a few enemies doing a lot of damage on this giant open roaming map. And it's a pretty like I really like what they did with the map, because you can go into any of these zones whenever the fuck you want, right? Like we take a mission in fucking I don't know, Hell
But
Zone or some shit.
yeah.
take a mission in one place, but we can wander into another place instead, and
do like
that's
side
fine.
objectives and
Yeah, exactly.
like explore a little bit.
We did our like we did the last mission we did. We fucking completed in I don't know 2 minutes, and we gotten you can see like your mission rating. It's like 1 star. And first of all, right, I have a problem with this because we fucking nailed that mission. Okay, we fucking snapped it out.
Yeah,
It's like get to the
we stole
execution.
those dinosaur eggs like you would not believe.
Like you wouldn't believe, and we cheesed the fuck out of that T-Rex, which was very disappointing, by the way. I don't want to I don't want to fight a T-Rex very much, but I also don't want to fucking be able to so easily cheese it.
Sure.
As we did. But yeah, like we nailed it, and we're like, okay, well, why don't we just fight about and do some other fucking things? And so we just roamed around for ages doing extra missions, and I just like, yeah, we should have gotten fucking 5 stars for going in and stealing those eggs and then getting the fuck out. That should be mission completed A++. But instead it was like, well, that's pathetic. What, you didn't do anything else while you're down there? Well, fuck off, cunts. We were paid for a job. Okay, we had to go into a fucking T-Rex nest and steal T-Rex eggs while a T-Rex was there. And you were like, oh, well, you couldn't do something else?
You didn't shoot down that drone.
What's this value add shit? I was paid for a job and I did the job, and I did it really quickly. So fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you don't order some fucking Uber Eats and the Uber driver comes around and fucking mows your lawn while he's at it. Like,
right?
That's not how things work.
That's right. Exactly. So yeah, bit of a fucking stitch up on that shit. But yeah, like. I don't know. Like I like that map system. I don't like the dinosaurs or the dino AI. I feel like there needs to be way more of them, and they need to be way scarier. Because I just never felt in trouble.
Sure.
I never felt like we were in danger. And we were like it's balanced for 3 players, right? It's not balanced for 2. It's balanced for 3. I don't think it scales at this point.
No.
And yeah, like it just felt odd that the 2 of us, especially considering I was feeling that lag, man. Like I was feeling it.
It felt a bit laggy to me as well. Because you know that thing that was, is it the flat something? It was a larger dinosaur that would like spin around and like hit his tail.
Yeah.
Whenever he came charging at me, I struggled to dodge it because it always felt like I was a second and a half too late, even though he wasn't near me. Like I would dodge and I'd still get hit, even though he like missed. So it did feel a bit weird for me as well. And I don't know if that's in relation to, this is the other thing I talked about last week. Like it just felt like the reloading was a little bit too long. Like something was.
Oh, you were 100% right on that, man. Like the reload is like half a second too long, and it is so disruptive.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, I didn't think it could be that bad. When you're talking about it last week, I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, what a weird thing to complain about. And then I'm fucking playing it, and I'm like, fucking fire already, cunt. How long does it fucking take to put a fucking magazine in? Shit. Oh my god, I thought you were fucking pro, cunt. Like, let's go, shoot. And yeah, just taking his fucking time to fucking sort it out. I had like no idea if I'd killed something or not.
Yeah.
As well. Like the lag was pretty bad for me.
I think it does a pretty good job of notifying when something dies. It's like a different
a red X, right?
Yeah, it's like a red X, and I think it makes a noise, like a good chunky.
The few times when we were getting swarmed, I had a lot of trouble distinguishing whether or not that red X was for something I just shot or whether it was for something I'd shot a second and a half ago. Like that was my problem, right? Like I'd be fucking firing into the masses, and like they have this habit of ragdolling and then getting back up.
Oh yeah.
And that is bad if you see the red X when they ragdoll, and it turns out it's for some other dino you shot like half a minute ago, and you're like, oh, I didn't kill him.
Yeah.
yeah, that was bad. And obviously, you did like, I don't know, 4 times as much damage as me, and so something was broken there
That's
as
just
well.
because I'm a
Uh,
better shooter than you.
something's obviously broken there as
I
well.
love that, like, you were like,
Because
oh, it's because I'm using the wrong gun. Oh, it's because I'm using this shotgun thing. And so you change guns the next game, and I still fucking stormed you.
no, it was because of the grenade launcher in the first one, and you stopped me more when I switched to the shotgun. It got so much worse because I think I was doing like passive area of effect damage with the grenade launcher,
Yeah.
and I'd stopped doing that, and now I'm like, well, should go back to the fucking grenade launcher or something.
Yeah.
Um,
But the grenade launcher was super handy because it was knocking that dinosaur over that had a weak spot on
yeah,
its belly.
yeah, yep,
Otherwise, you had to use your grenades, and you've only got like 6 grenades max.
yep,
But what I like that it does is that you've got these abilities to call down like supply drops, and so you can do them in the middle of battle and just have them come down. And then like your character, the default setup was also ammo supply as well, and so you could run around
yeah,
and throw ammo on the ground. So you can actually swap them out on the preload screen for different things. But it just feels like I like that system in there because you play a lot of, like, when we were playing Back for Blood. There's like instances where it's like I'm running out of ammo. Like,
yeah.
what are we
I don't
doing?
know. I'm gonna have to fucking stab shit then.
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's not fun. Like, I
no,
want to shoot things.
yeah, exactly. And it's like if they added more enemies in, then that would get used more as well.
Yeah,
You know, like you'd have more reason to fucking call shit in. And you
sure.
might even want to, like, the way those things come in and crash into everything, they like knock, if like they land too close to your player character, they knock you on your ass and shit, which is
Yeah,
pretty amusing. But they also knock down like dinos. The way that works, like you could possibly wind up using that shit strategically as well,
mm.
which would be pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Add an extra layer to the game, but there's just not enough threat for it to really be needed.
yeah.
So
Maybe
yeah,
maybe it changes on. We were definitely playing on normal. Maybe it
yeah,
changes on hard or whatever the next difficulty is. We didn't really have a chance to look at that.
yeah,
I know there was a difficulty setting on the campaign modes that we checked, but I don't know how that is changed, or if you go into like free roam, if that makes things a little bit different, or anyway. Um, yeah,
yeah. Anyway, like I think it's got some work to do, but
yeah,
it's an
I had
okay
fun.
start. Like, yeah, I had fun. I think it would work better with like multiple people. Um, like a third person, I think it would be even better, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because then you get that variety as well of like what do they
yeah,
bring. You can have your support, your I don't know, there's like an artillery strike or something that I could unlock, but I think we just decided to go with the ammo, like more ammo, because that seemed to be working pretty well. So, like, did the different combinations of things you can bring out, and it looks like there's weapon upgrades, different types of grenades, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it seems like a good sort of base. But when you've got a game like Back for Blood coming out, and I keep going back to that one because, uh, they're the team that sort of revolutionized, made this genre really popular with Left 4 Dead. Um,
yeah,
and then you've got the Vermintide team that are putting stuff out as well, like some big some big competition out there. So you've really got to
yeah,
bring your A game.
yeah, exactly. Like that said, I think they're upfront that it's early access, so
Yeah, absolutely.
you know they got space for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
All right, that's called Second Extinction. It's on, like we said, it's on Game Pass if you want to check it out for early
Mhm.
access. Otherwise, it's also on Steam where you can jump in and buy it if you feel like it. So there
If
you
you
go.
feel like it,
It's 20
yep.
25 US.
Right.
Yeah,
I
maybe
would Game Pass it
maybe
at this
Game
point,
Pass it.
and if you don't have Game Pass, I would wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. to Trials of Fire, which is a game that was recommended to us by a listener. Was it
Audio
Audiocron?
Cron.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the questions last week.
Yeah.
What
So
a
this.
what a shitty thing to do to some people. Audiocron. What a terrible thing to unleash upon to hardcore roguelike addicts, roguelite addicts, deck building roguelite addicts like us. Oh my god, what a fucking disservice.
Hey, fools! Have you played this game? Have you played 45 hours of this game yet? No, you casual fucks.
It's legit. It's what they like. The fucking that giraffe used to fucking warn about in at school when the giraffe.
Harold.
Did you ever Harold the giraffe would come to your school and you go into the van and be like, "Oh, if you try weed, then someone will be like, do you want to try crack?" And then fucking bang, you're on crack.
Yeah,
that's basically what happened here. He's like, "Oh, you like Slay the Spire? Or do you want to try crack?" Bang. Yeah.
Right.
I played 20 hours of Trials of Fire.
Okay.
In the last week.
Sure. That's a lot.
I went all the way down the rabbit hole. I've finished it multiple times. I really like this game. I reckon they've done such a good job of combining the two, the sort of tactics style gameplay. So Trials of Fire, I suppose we'll introduce, is a tactics based deck building roguelite, which is they're starting to get a bit out of hand with the old genre mixing. But yeah, so it's so let's go through those definitions. Roguelite means it is a game where you die and unlock when you die, you unlock things to take into your next attempt. And then deck building means you acquire cards that allow you to do abilities in the game. And tactics based, in my definition, I suppose, is when you're moving about on a grid of some sort. In this case, it's hex grid, a la XCOM, and so you make moves based on your positioning on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it basically takes the deck building roguelite concept and folds in the positioning of a tactics game, and it doesn't do any of these things like too much. It's sort of I think it does a really good job of balancing all three elements to find a happy middle ground where because if it lands it too far in one direction, I think it might not work very well. But I think it does a really good job of really nailing that balance, in my opinion. And so you wind up in this situation where you are thinking about where, like, you make your decisions, the cards you play and stuff, based on where you are on the board and what else is on the board and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, your decisions are dictated by the RNG of the cards, and the RNG of the cards is dictated by your choices on what cards you've taken, and the choices of cards that you are taking is impacted by how far into the game you are and what you've unlocked and stuff.
How much
and
you
so,
level up, sort of like when you level up a character, you get a choice of leveling up cards or like obtaining new cards, and so like that factors into it. And then the gear system as well, finding gear that affects what cards you're given as well, because that is something I'm still trying to wrap my head around. But
it's really clever
so many factors,
in the way that it does that shit, because you wind up making this like monumental decisions, these decisions that will flat out fuck your playthrough.
Hmm.
Or fuck or save your playthrough based on like the amount of cards character, like you know. So my favorite build, my favorite team build out is Elementalist, Warrior, and usually Witch Doctor, right? And I'll take Witch Doctor and I just put every fucking card on that guy. I just put every single fucking card I can on that guy. He's the dude he holds my summons. He carries like any buffs or debuffs or anything. He just carries fucking everything. And the other two characters are these like finely tuned machines that like I will wander into like an area and it'll be like, oh, you've got all these choices of equipment. And I'll be like, no, I'm going to stick with the fucking gray cloak my Elementalist is already wearing because I can't afford to add another fucking card into her fucking deck. Because if I do it, the shit she needs to murder everything is never going to show up. And the same goes for the Warrior. It'll be like, oh, yeah, I could. Like, you've got the choice of, like, you get these legendary items and it does this thing where instead of immediately giving you just some item, it gives you a choice between 4 things, and 3 of them are items, and 1 of them is a legendary item upgrade. And so you've got these 3 choices, and depending on what you get, it could be like something out of control, amazing for your characters or your builds. But sometimes it'll just be 3 things that you don't really have fucking much use for.
Yeah.
And you'll just be like, if I take the axe, right, then the warrior chick is going to be able to fucking, like, just fucking wallop cunts, right? Like, just the axe, I think it's the axe. The axe of the Claymore legendary has this ability where it attacks everyone adjacent to them. And then it does, like, it attacks one person for fucking huge damage, does 4 damage to everyone adjacent plus any bonuses. And if it kills anyone, it does 2 extra damage to everyone adjacent to that person that it kills. And so it just winds up being this, like, if you can make it work, it is just the fucking killingest shit. It just fucking murders everyone. But if your warrior build hinges on her wandering into battle and standing there and taking as much damage as possible, and walking away unmolested, and that's basically how I build my warrior chick. Like, she'll walk into a fight with like 20 fucking health flat out.
Yep.
The way health works is really interesting too, because everyone starts with base 10 and then your armor just adds health. So any armor you've got from your equipment just adds health, and then you can actually add block onto your people, and that stays across turns. It's not like Slay the Spire, where it disappears after every fucking turn. You have to reapply it, and so you can wind up like building a lot of fucking block on these characters. And the good thing about the warrior is when she plays a card, the first time she plays a card each turn, the other characters get block, so they get bonus block.
Yep.
And if you get this card called Elite, it's a power. You play it on her, they all get 4 block every time she plays. The first time she plays a card each turn, and so you can build a situation where you're literally just walking her. Like, all you want to do is make sure you play a card as her, so that everyone gets 4 fucking block. If she's getting block as well, she's getting fucking loads of block, and so you just wind up like fucking getting stacks of block, walking her into the middle of shit, dragging everyone towards her, and then maybe doing something. But generally all I'm doing is the elementalist chick is then murdering everyone with fucking like lightning damage or fire damage or some shit, and just, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, I wind up in situations where like there's these power cards you play on the on your characters, and like they last, but they have like a resilience. So when the character takes damage, the power takes damage. And so if your character takes unblocked damage, they lose those powers. But if you keep the one character safe and never taking unblocked damage, you wind up doing fucking crazy shit. I had at the end of a run, I had I think it was the Witch Doctor has like a late game level up power where when you would add a fifth power, because you can only have 4 powers in a character. So I put on my Elementalist, I had a power that you do extra damage for every power that you've got. So she's doing like extra damage by having as many powers as possible. And then you put this other one on, this Witch Doctor one on, where when you would get a 5th power, destroy it or destroy this power and deal, like, when it's upgraded, 30 damage to everyone on the fucking board, every enemy on the board. A split. It's enough to kill almost anything.
Sure.
It's fucking bananas. And you just, like, as long as she is out of harm's way, and you don't even need to, like, she doesn't need to live forever. She just needs to live long enough so that she doesn't lose her powers. And then you can deal with, like, as long as they're hitting on her and then not killing her powers, the Elementalist will just fucking ruin everyone. And the Witch Doctor's there literally just to set her up, because she, the Witch Doctor, whenever, like, whatever damage they do first in a turn applies a status effect. So if they do, I think it's like, they do magic damage, they'll apply lightning to everyone on the board. But if they do, I think it's ranged, they'll do fire, not to everyone on the board, to the person they attacked. But if they do fire, if they do range, they'll do fire, and they take 2 damage anytime you do magic damage to someone with fire on them. And so you just set up people to fucking melt in no time at all. And yeah, it's fantastic. Like, that is what I love in a roguelite, is that ability to get to a point where you are wandering in, like, you're taking battles for the sake of taking battles and then just fucking melting cunts.
Yeah.
Just to see if you can fucking do it. That rampant unchecked power, that's when you know you fucking get a roguelite. And like, Slay the Spire does it fucking phenomenally. When you're playing as fucking the Defect, and all you do is play a card and everything cycles, all these fucking orbs cycle over and over and over again. And you've stacked so much fucking focus on this idiot that, like, 2 cycles of lightning orbs kills everything on the fucking, he's got that all lightning to all people. And if they take damage, and you just G it up so that he can take 1 HP. You stack all this fucking defense and you G it up so he takes 1 health point damage. And then he takes 1 health point damage, and that kills everyone. And you're like, fuck yes, you fucking idiots. And you could have killed him. You could have killed him like a billion times over. You're like, I am toying with you now. I have mastered this game. And that's what it works so fucking well in Trials of Fire. My biggest regret is that I played exclusively on normal until I did the God Hunt, because I got my fucking shit kicked in when I was rolling around, and the final boss of that level is on the map at all times, and you can go find them whenever you want, and you should not. Under no circumstances should you go and find that fucking boss before you are ready to take on that boss. But I did, not fully understanding what I was getting myself into. And I got, fucking walloped. Absolutely walloped. But that's when I realized, because that one in particular, like, it gives you like a time rating, how long it thinks it's going to take for each like mission. It's got like a bunch of different quests that you can go on. Gives you a time rating. And this one, it reckons, could be up to 4 hours. And that might be conservative. That might be underselling a little bit. Because I went to this god dude early, and it was still around 4 hours that I pissed away doing that by mistake. And then I'm like, I can't, because when you finish a quest, you unlock a new legendary. I'm like, I can't unlock that legendary until I beat this quest. Maybe I should just, I'll bump it down to easy, and then I'll just churn through this shit. And I'll get the fucking item, and then I can go back to, or I actually want to start playing on hard instead. I think, yeah, I wish I'd played through all of them on easy and then move my way up to normal, because then I could have unlocked all of the fucking items. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know if that's how it should be.
I mean, the game says that, like, if you're new to card games, play on easy. If you're familiar with them, play on normal type thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I've been playing a bunch of it. I think the combat and the management of the cards is interesting. So, like, it's split up into like the three characters you can take with you. So you talked about like having a mage or warrior. The three default ones that you get given when the game starts, it's basically they all get their own hand of cards dealt to them, and they're the ones that, as you're moving them around the board, you play those cards to do damage or to do whatever moves they're doing, and it's specifically related to that character. And you start off with like a base pool of mana, and to be able to get more mana, it's not like it increases every turn. You end up recycling cards. So each character gets dealt a certain amount of cards, and then you start recycling cards that you don't want to use. And whenever you do that, you get given a mana point, and also whoever's card you have recycled, that character can then move a couple of spaces on the board. So not only are you maneuvering characters using recycles, but that is how you're getting mana and playing cards. So you got to think like strategically about, who do I need to move right now, or who do I need to cast these abilities or spells, like who needs to block and defend, and then so it's just not about like, oh, I just need this one person to do this one thing. You're kind of thinking about everybody that you've got in your character list. And they've all got their own individual cards that they can play. It's not like Monster Train where you pick two clans and the two clans have different cards that they go in with you, but that doesn't really matter. It's just that's what you get to play with. Whereas I played a game called Roguebook at the start of the year that was co-created by Magic the Gathering's Richard Garfield. And it uses a similar system to that, where because that is also a roguelike deck building game where you take in different characters, and those characters have their own cards that they can play as well. So this is very similar in Trials of Fire. But I like that sort of strategic thinking about which cards you need to recycle. And then each turn you can only hold on to one card per character. So you need to recycle cards every time that you have a turn. You can't just hold on to like all the good cards and then be like, all right, cool, I'm done here, I'll go to the next hand. It's like, no, you need to use them. Either you get rid of them, or
you can hold one.
You can hold one. Yeah, you gotta hold one.
I didn't know that. I'd finished the game like fucking 3 times.
Yeah.
Before I found that out, because I got like a card that was like, if you hold on to this until the next round. I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna hold on to it? And then I actually like properly read the text that was like,
because it tells you if you try and play with 2 cards in your hand, it's like you can't do that. You need to only have 1 card.
It's revolutionary to your game when you learn that you can fucking hold on to one of those cards. Holy shit.
Yeah.
No more cycling some fucking beast card for 2 fucking armor. None of that shit. No way. You're like, oh yeah. Well, next turn, things are gonna go poorly for you cunts. Yeah.
But you brought up a point a moment ago. My first run, I was about 3.5 hours in, and I got to, I think it was the boss, I'm not sure. But anyway, I was having a lot of trouble fighting this boss, mainly because they were using this ability. It was called like vacuum or something, and it would like grab all of my characters in like an AoE, I don't know, 7 or 8 different sort of hexagons, and
Gravity
then
well.
and then like suck them off into a section of the map. Yes, it'd like move them, vacuum them, gravity well them away from where this enemy was that I was fighting, and siphon them to the. I don't know how many more words can I use here. Same thing. Anyway, it basically moved them away from where I was, and then I have to start again and work my way back to where this character was. And the problem there was that the two characters I was using, two of them were melee characters, and the other one was like a mage, but they needed to be within like 3 squares. And so whenever I got anywhere
Yeah.
near this thing, it used this ability like 7 or 8 times in a row on me, and I couldn't get anywhere near it because I didn't have enough cards to move around, or I wasn't getting I think it's called, I don't remember what the card is, but it gives you like willpower, which is the mana, and it gives you a movement as well. It's like 2 squares or 2 hexagons, and that's not enough for me to get back. And so I spent like 5 minutes not doing anything because it kept using the same ability on me. And every time it did that, it would also play another card that would buff itself and give itself extra armor. And so it got to the point where this thing had about 30 armor on it, and I wasn't fighting it. I was just like, man, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't get close to it. I got like, what is the game plan here? So I just killed myself.
Is that not like, is that not on you though?
Is it? This is my first game. Literally my first game. What am I supposed to do? I didn't know this was coming.
And you got rid of all of your abilities to move around the map?
No, I had them all on me. I still had them. I just wasn't getting like it was moving me so far back. There were obstacles in the way between the character and where my characters were. So I had to go like a long way around to get back to where she was standing. But she wasn't moving because every time I got like near her, she would just fucking use this gravity well thing and then buff herself, and then she was out of mana, and I would have to spend like all my cards, and then I would get like nearly the way there. I'd end my turn and then try and go back, and then she'd use the same thing again. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like rinse and repeat. It's just the same thing over and over for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, like you can like, you can like, you like dust a card, you discard a card, and you can move 2.
Yeah.
Like,
I still wasn't enough because I was only getting like 4 cards each hand. Because I had 2 melee, I've got to be right next to her, and she kept just moving me. I don't know. It just seemed weird, like something was going on. I just don't feel like she should have that ability every turn, every fucking turn. It seemed like she was pulling it.
It just, well, no, it's definitely, she shouldn't have had it that often. But yeah, I don't know, man. It seems like you should have had more range cards at the very least.
I only had one character that was ranged, which was my mage. There was another character that had range, but because I couldn't get like the
line of sight,
line of sight, and I couldn't use. I had a card that like bounced off obstacles and then would hit them, but the angle wasn't there because it was
the right angle.
And so anytime I tried to do anything, it never works. So I was just like, man, I'm just gonna die. Which brings me to my second point. I think the games are too long, and the rewards, the rewards 100%. Are not worth it. Like I said, I played it 3.5 hours, and I got level like 1.5. I got like one piece of item for each of my characters out of that. I'm like, you're fucking kidding. That is like, like the roguelite style of game is supposed to be, I guess, starting off quicker games, and then you're getting more powerful and powerful. Eventually the games get longer. This seems like how long is the fucking next game going to be?
That's what I'm saying about playing on easy, man. Right? Because you get like, I think you get a lot of rewards, like fuck ton of XP for completing the quest.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you get a fuck ton of XP for completing the quest. You get a legendary item out of the quest.
Yeah.
Added to your pool. So I think you should play through each quest on easy first to churn out something. Like, I 100% agree. I absolutely agree with you. I think there is a workaround. I think there's a way around, like a way to manage that. My problem, speaking of the games being too long, there's a lot of fucking wasted time in that fucking game. A lot of wasted time. It is a game that is perfect for sitting there with something up on the other fucking screen because so much time is just. I'll just fucking wait. And God forbid you accidentally mouse over the part, like when you're switching screens. God forbid you mouse over the part where the cards get played because they'll just hold forever until you mouse it away.
That happened
so
a couple of times to me.
aggravating. Holy shit. But no, I've had a number of games where I've been in a situation where I've reached the final boss. I'm like, I can't win this. I can't win this. And now I have to fucking wait for them to do this shit. Like, can we just? I need a fucking 4x. I need the button in Monster Train where everything goes at like lightning speed. Can I just fucking just churn through? Like, just skip ahead, man. Like, I know what's happening here. Like, can we just? Yeah. I just want the game to run at 3 times or 4 times speed at all times, to be honest. Like it's not like there's any real time shit I need to worry about. There's nothing going on. It's all positioning based. So it's like if everything in the game just took place way fucking faster, it'd be so much better. And games wouldn't take so long, and you wouldn't feel like you'd pissed away all the time when you got to the end of a quest and you immediately fucking failed and all this kind of stuff. Like there's a lot that I think could be solved about this game with a 4x button. That would be, and like I said, I fucking love it. I love this game. But yeah, that is my biggest fucking complaint. Is holy shit, the time wasting.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, totally worth the money in my opinion. I absolutely adore it. It is fantastic. It works so well. I'm so obsessed. I like the writing as well. It reminds me of the 5th season. It's got that real fucking vibe to it. I don't think it's as good as N.K. Jemisin's stuff, but I like the world building and the way that they've imagined this ruined post-apocalyptic world and all that kind of stuff. And you go to a new place, and the way all that plays out, and you learn little tidbits about all of the world and stuff. I just think it's good. Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'll keep checking it out. But it's very fun game. Just a bit too long.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, our next game is it's out. It's a brand new game called Returnal, created by, is it Housemarque? Housemarque Key?
Housemarque?
Yeah. Basically, they have created games in the past like Resogun. Alien Nation was a game we talked about a couple years back. What else have they made?
Super Stardust, right?
Yep. That's right. Yeah. Super Stardust. They've done a lot of action shooter games. And this is their they're not like a big studio. They're on the smaller-ish end of studios that we see, but I guess this is classified as a AAA game. It's available on the PlayStation 5, one of the first big games for that. And it's basically a roguelike action shooter, which is a recurring theme on today's show. I'll tell you what, the trailer for this game. Do you remember the first trailer that we saw for
fucking
Returnal?
Yep.
Like that is, I don't know, man. Like,
were we roasting it on the show, or was it on the podcast, or was it just in private? I can't remember. But
no, because I think we did it. We were recording at that stage. I think it's on like the internet. It was like this very alien HR Geiger style, weird alien shit. And no gameplay. Like if you were to show me that trailer and then show me the game, I would be like, they're not even connected, those two things.
They're not related.
Yeah. But the thing is, when I saw the gameplay for this, even then I was like, this looks fucking like, what is this? This is I'm not interested in this at all. And it wasn't until we were recording, like, was it last week or the week before that those previews came out, and everyone
Yep.
was on about it, and I was like, all right, now you've
Yep.
got my interest. I'm here
Mm.
for this. Like, unless you're all fucking wrong. But anyway, this game is out now. I've spent a bunch of time into it, and I'm having a lot of fun. I'm
Yep.
really digging this game quite a lot. It's tickling all those roguelike things that we were just talking about that it does well.
Yep.
You're playing this female space pilot who crashes on this strange planet. Um, she basically crawls out of her aircraft, goes wandering out. You end up collecting new weapons and items and gear and all this sort of stuff, and then she dies. But then she reawakens back in her spaceship and crawls back out again, and you start the cycle, I guess, as they call it in the game. Rinse and repeat, and she is on this planet trying to figure out what is going on to her, because every time she gets a little bit further and further, she's collecting like audio logs, and it's herself leaving these audio logs, talking to herself about like what is happening and all these weird things that are going on, and there's a story tied to it, which usually like it seems a bit more fleshed out, or at least there's something going on there that like a bit twisty. Um, so I'm really liking that stuff, but it's like it's sort of not what I expected at all, really, from this game. It feels very much like what was that? Risk of Rain 2 that we played.
Yep.
But the difference is that it's not these open sort of worlds that you're running around in. This is more on the here are a bunch of set tiles, and we're gonna rearrange the map every time you go through it. Like stuff will be recognizable every time you go through that world, but they're not going to be like the same run is going to be completely different to the next run that you do. And so they're like laying out that map a bit more like a Dead Cells sort of setup. And so each time that you go through it, you're gaining more knowledge about how the map works, about the creatures you're interacting with, about the weapons that you're getting, the items that you're finding, the artifacts that you're discovering, and they're leveling up your character. And then eventually, it's that thing of like you slowly get further and further in the game as you unlock more and more. And yeah, man, I'm having a blast with it. There's obviously issues, which I think we'll get into, but like, what are your sort of initial thoughts on this game? What's your relationship
Uh,
like?
my initial thoughts on this game were that I did not like it at
Hmm.
all. Initially, I was not enjoying myself because I think it does. Yeah, it does a bunch of stuff that I don't think it should, and it's kind of I don't know. It doesn't really feel good to play. It sort of rubbed me the wrong way, right? It's interesting that you mentioned Dead Cells because that's where my mind went with it as well.
Yeah.
Is because my mind went there because all I could think about while I was like I would loop and I'd go back in and all I could think about is I think I could have probably beaten the Hand of the King in the time it took me to do that one loop where I
Hmm.
got up to the fucking first boss.
They're
I
long.
probably
They take some
I
time.
probably could have fucking killed the final boss of Dead Cells in this time.
Mm.
Without any fucking not at I can't remember what they call it in Dead Cells anymore, Ascension 1 or whatever. It's not
Sure.
like not fucking not on hard mode or anything, but on the basic Dead Cells, I probably could have killed the fucking Hand of the King this time. Like this game, the first fucking biome takes fucking ages.
My first
Uh,
life was long. It was
yeah,
long.
and I feel like it didn't really set me up to like. I'm like if like I should be fucking hammering through this shit, right? Like I feel like I want to be failing fast, right? I want to be fucking quick on this shit.
Hmm.
But once I shifted my perspective away from that, basically when I beat the first boss, and the second biome, like dramatically opens up, like massively opens up. And it's sort of, I don't know, maybe my interpretation of the game expanded as well or something. But once that happened, holy shit, I fell in love with it, man. Yeah, I finished it.
Oh, really?
I got it.
Oh.
I got it yesterday.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because I played a couple of times and I've seen you on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and every time I think I looked, because I was playing in the morning and you were on, and I think I went and I was working on my review stuff. And then like I jumped on later on and you were still on like 3 or 4 times throughout the day. I jumped in and had like a run or two and you were still sitting there playing. You could have left it on, but seemed like
I
you were
did.
playing.
I left it on. So yeah, it reckons it took 16 hours to finish, but I guarantee you, it didn't.
Yeah.
I reckon I played for about 12 hours. Sorry, I didn't get it yesterday. I got it the day before yesterday.
Sure.
I got it on Tuesday, and it's Thursday today. But yeah, I finished it yesterday.
Sure.
So yeah, I played for about 12 hours over the course of 2 days, and yeah, I went all the way down the rabbit hole. The thing of it is that I didn't die on my final run at all. I never died. After I beat the first boss, I looped once in the second biome, and then I never died again. That was my last run, basically. I've played again since, but yeah, you wind up in this fucking in that right mindset, right, of just fucking churning through the loops and shit. You wind up in that, you get the right build, and I don't think you can die, right? And as you learn, like even over the course of that game, like it's interesting because it's a roguelite. So normally you would learn, I feel like you would learn these things over the course of loops. But what was happening was I was learning these things during that one loop. I was like, how come I didn't take any damage, right? And it's because I had this thing called the what's it called? Resinous shield.
Yeah.
Right. And the resinous shield is when you pick up resin, you get a shield. That's it.
This is an artifact.
Yeah, it's an artifact that you pick up along the way. And so because I had the resinous shield, the first hit I would take didn't do any damage at all. And it also meant that I could pick up those fucking spoiled resins without taking any damage, because the damage, if it did do, would be done to the shield. And then because I picked up resin, it would add a shield.
Yep.
So yeah, like there was like learning about the different weapons. I accidentally didn't unlock one of the weapons, which I'm finding out now. I saw it while I was running through, and I didn't pick it up because I had a way better weapon already. Like you wind up in these situations where like you're building up the level of weapon you'll get, your proficiency, and even still, you'll still like sometimes an enemy will drop an item that is way better than what your current proficiency is. It'll be like 2 or 3 levels above it, and you're like, well, obviously I'm using that. So I had this fucking shotgun that was like proficiency 15, which I think was the max that I could get. And then I see this other weapon, which is like 12 or some shit. I'm like, well, fuck that. I'm not picking that up. That's way worse. I didn't realize that I should have picked it up and dropped it again.
Yeah, it unlocks it, I think.
It unlocks it for...
I think it tells you when you pick them up, like, weapon unlocked.
Future runs.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. I've got no fucking idea.
I think you got to kill that thing again, because I had an instance where I found a weapon that I hadn't used before, and I couldn't pick it up because I had a parasite. I had a malfunction that was like, you can't pick up new weapons. And I'm like, fuck.
Gold.
I think this is like right after I beat a boss as well.
Oh, yeah. You like, well, the other thing is that because I didn't die, again, I never looped back to see it again. So I think I'll have to make my way back to Biome 2 on a
Yeah.
loop to see it again and unlock it. But it didn't matter. I don't feel like I missed out. There's one bad weapon in the game. I don't know if that would have been the second one, but I doubt it. The one bad weapon is like a pyro launcher or some shit. It's useless. Do not use it.
Haven't seen it.
Absolutely don't use it. But anyway, yeah, you just fucking. I just fell down a rabbit hole with it. I just fucking adored it, man. I absolutely love this game. I just think it does so many things really well. I think the enemies are fucking cool, and they do a really good job of like telegraphing without being too obvious about it. Like you need to learn their telegraphs because of their form. You need to properly analyze how they're moving and stuff so that you can see those telegraphs and stuff
and where they're going to attack and where their attack will go.
Yeah, and yeah, like certain enemies you absolutely don't want to be hit by because they'll give you defects, which is rough. And they're obviously the hardest in the game as well, so that helps. But as long as like they're a different color, so it also kind of fucks with how you notice their telegraphs, because a lot of the time their telegraphs are also color based. There's a color based element to those telegraphing attacks, but when they're a different color and they're at their most dangerous, it's hard to fucking read. And so you learn to read it based on their movements instead, which is a really clever addition, a really clever change. The fucking graphics, gorgeous. I did have some frame drops, which I was surprised by.
I was getting them yesterday.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's because of a patch that they released, because I don't think it was happening the day before. I remember it running really well. And then when I was playing yesterday, it was struggling in some parts. And it wasn't like I'm in a new area. It was the first part. And so I don't know if it's a case of some sort of weird memory leak or if it was the patch that came out. Because I know it did update because I was playing a different game. And it was like, Returnal is updated. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Like it did it in the background. So yeah, I wonder if that is a patch thing, because it definitely wasn't happening to me in that first day that I played, those performance issues.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that could have been it. It was odd. I wasn't a huge fan of it happening. Yeah. So yeah, the graphics are gorgeous. The sound is phenomenal. You got to play with headphones. You plug any headphones in to your control pad, and you'll get 3D audio, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it does such a fucking good job with it. It's
fantastic. The DualSense with it is great. Like that first time you crawl out of the spaceship and it's like raining and you can like feel the raindrops on there,
Pitter patter.
The adaptive triggers are done very well compared to the other game that I'll talk about later. But like, I think the shooting is really cool. It's a very much like, here's a giant fucking reticle on the screen and just aim like anywhere around that sort of I don't know what is it, like a fucking giant square, and you'll probably hit whatever it is you're going for, because most of the guns that you use, there's a couple that don't, but most of them will just like track to whatever it is you're trying to shoot at. And then there's like an overload button, so when you're reloading you can do the like quickly Gears of War, like quick time, like
active reload,
click the button at the right sweet spot, it'll give you a bit of a boost and it'll reload quicker, so it's a bit more engaging in terms of the shooting. And then you've got like the alternate fire modes. You can like hold the trigger down completely and it'll do a special ability as well, so that's super smart. And also like it's like a half trigger as well, you can like a little bit of ADS in, and that, I think that is really smart. Like that works really well. So I'm a fan of the shooting. And once you get an idea for combining the shooting with the dodging and the jumping and then the meleeing, because I wasn't doing a lot of meleeing at the start, but that does quite a lot of damage. So like when you're reloading, you can kind of just zip in and out and combine all that, it feels really awesome. There's some really cool artifacts that you can get. You unlock, like I had one last night when I was playing through, and this is basically you get health using these little green things. But if you've already got maximum health, it kind of puts a point into like a way to level up your health. And once you get 3 of those, and it like gives you more integrity in your health bar, and you keep doing that, and you keep getting more and more health. And I found an artifact that made it so that I only needed 2 of those health upgrades.
Yeah.
And I had so much fucking health. I got to the second boss for the first time, and I had like more than double the amount of health that I was supposed to have in that initial chunk. And I beat this thing on my first go. It was fucking hairy because I was trying to learn its patterns, and like I get hit and then have to be like, oh, okay, I got to remember that is that thing. And then it was throwing these fucking all these moves at me, and there's balls flying everywhere, and I'm dodging, and I had like no health left when I just killed it. I had this shit gun that hadn't it wasn't doing a lot of range. It was doing damage, but I needed to be like quite close to it. And so every time I'd try and like shoot it, I'd be just out of range, and I was getting really disappointed. But eventually I killed it.
The shotgun.
I don't know if it was it might have been a shotgun. I can't remember. Or the shadow. Is it Shadow Keeper or something?
Oh no, that's the one I didn't unlock.
I think that's got like tons of bullets.
Right.
Anyway, I just got there in that one run, and then I got to the third biome and made my way through that. And yeah, it's like that thing you're talking about where you can go on these like really long runs because you got a great run going. You got this cool gear coming in. You've got like all the artifacts that you want. You've picked up there's parasites in the game that are these very risk reward. Here's a buff, but here's also a debuff. And then there's also like chests and other items you can open that will have a chance to give you a malfunction, which is another way of more risk in the game. And so it'll give you like, hey, you've got to kill 20 enemies, and until you do that, you can't pick up a gun. Or that was the one time I got that, but it could be like, hey, you do 50% less damage while jumping, or you were in the air, or this sort of thing. And so there's a lot of that, like, do I do this or do I not do this? And sometimes you get benefits out of it, and other times there's a dice roll and you get something that's not as good. And it's when things are going your way, like the runs in that game go quite long, and then sometimes I've had games where I've died in like 10 minutes. I'm like, well, just I didn't get the gun that I wanted, like, or I was stuck with this fucking shit pistol, and I walked into the wrong room, and there's this giant ass boss, and I just got fucked. Like, those things just happen sometimes.
It does, that does happen. There's one thing that can happen early on that is absolutely out of control, and it shouldn't happen, which is where you walk on one of those yellow dot platforms and get dumped.
Oh, it puts you in a yeah.
And when a sentient is in that room and you have your level 0 pistol, just fucking press start and abandon
Restart
the run
cycle.
because that one is done. You are finished, my friend. Go back to the fucking beginning because you're not getting out of that one alive. Right. Can we talk about how you can't save? Because that is so fucked, problem. Man. It's so fucked that there's absolutely no save point at all, or save system or anything like that in a game that takes as long as it does. And the way it works, man, the fact that they're rolling back patches and doing these hotfix patches, the way it works on fucking PlayStation is if your fucking game auto updates, it will take you back out of the game, and that's it.
Because it closes. Yeah, when you update a game on PlayStation, it's got auto updates, or you can charge your controller because it's in rest mode, right? And so it's got all these things that it does in the background. So when you fire up your PlayStation, it says, "Hey, here are all the games that have updated while you're away," so you're not like waiting for a 10 gigabyte patch or a fucking 40 gigabyte patch of Call of Duty to come down. It's like ready to go. But that also becomes a problem with a game like you're talking about with Returnal, where there's no save state. You can, which is what I've been doing. I've been doing the enter rest mode and then coming back, and I can fire up my game and it's good to go. But if a patch is applied in between that where it closes the game, you have lost that progress.
You lose everything you did. If you unlocked some new artifacts, if you unlocked a weapon, gone, which is fucked, man. That is so bad. Yeah, that is unacceptable in my opinion. And the game shouldn't exist in that state. Like it should just, I don't understand.
It should be a save function. Yeah, it's a weird oversight.
I was in Trials of Fire, and I fucked up. I utterly fucked up because I tried to. You can't fucking save scum. That fucking game saves up to your latest fucking card played. It's fucking insane. I was like devastated. I'm like, how the fuck? Why the fuck is Trials of Fire saving every fucking card I play? Meanwhile, fucking Returnal, $130 game, which is another fucking sticking point in my opinion. $130 game can't fucking save at all between fucking runs. That's fucking insanity. It's cooked. And also, yeah, like my game crashed at one point and I lost a significant amount of fucking I was in a boss fight. I was in the second boss fight for my second run through the game, and the game crashed when the astronaut figurine popped, which is when you die. If you've got the astronaut figurine, you come back to life in the same place. It's very helpful. Yeah, it popped and the game crashed. And okay, cool. So there goes all of that progress. Like literally done. I'm finished. That's the last time I played it. So I'm fucking gutted at, like, I just can't. If it's gonna rob me like that, man, that's bad. But yeah, like if it had saved, when I'd entered, I don't know, the area, like if just save at the fucking like bonfires or some shit, right? When you go to those portals that move you around the place, just have that as a save point. Like, how the fuck is that not the case? It is bananas. I understand game saves are complicated, etc., etc., etc. And like Returnal doesn't do itself any favors by like holding position for everything whenever you leave an area and stuff. Like if you run away, if you go to a new room, or you like, I can go through the entire map. One of the things I would do is I would go through, if I found one of those consumables, there's a consumable that undoes all malfunctions. Like just gets rid of them. And so if you see that, you don't pick it up at the end of the game, at the end of the round, once you've beaten the boss in the biome, you roll back through the level and you find those cursed chests and you open those motherfuckers up. First of all, because you'll definitely have better weapon proficiency. You'll probably get a really good weapon. And then you get the malfunction, and instead of starting the next biome with a couple of malfunctions, you just go find that thing, pick it up, pop it, and go like on your merry way. But all that shit still exists exactly where you fucking left it, right? And I'm sure that doesn't do them any favors in terms of save states and stuff. However, I don't care if the end result is I can't trust them to not fucking kill my game overnight when they patch and then roll back a patch and then patch again. Like, fuck that shit. That's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. And yeah, $130 is insane. There's absolutely no way that I would pay $130 for this game.
Yeah, that's a weird situation that these next gen consoles have put themselves in, right? The 109 recommended retail price in Australia has jumped up to 125.
Yeah.
And so we've seen games that have come out at that price. You look at what was the first one? It was like NBA 2K, right? It was sort of the first one to jump out and say, hey, next gen console prices for games are going to
Yeah.
be this much. And I was like, okay, that's a bit out there. But it's sort of a sticking point now where it's like something we've kind of got to get used to at this stage of looking at that price scheme. And I think it's worse in Australia because the jump from I mean 109 to 125, generally, like, you could go to into a store, right, and buy a game for between $69 and $89 most of the time, even though it was recommended retail price 109. You'd go into an EB Games and it'd be 109 because that is what they sell there. They sell games. They don't sell TVs or
Yeah.
like other things like a JB Hi-Fi or a Harvey Norman. And so that price that price was just always set that way. And so when you come into this $125 price point, I've seen that like EB Games is selling it at that high, but the JB Hi-Fis aren't this. They're a little bit higher still. They're still like 100 and I think they're over 100 at this stage. And I think those prices will come down eventually. But it's just so weird that it's such a huge price jack in Australia specifically. In like, I can only speak for the US, but it hasn't gone up that huge. It's like it was $10 US, and you do the price conversion on what the difference is, and it's not a lot. It's like 89 Australian for like the 69 conversion, and the sort of price difference when you convert them in percentages is it's like a 35% increase in Australia for the pricing, whereas here it's not. It's like 15%. It's like a huge, and so I think this thing you're talking about is specifically a bit more to do with the local pricing in Australia, but at the same time, I don't think that any of these games should be that price anyway. I envision the high, the 125 or the 69 US price point, they should be for the Last of Us or for the big AAA games, right? I don't think this is worthy of that price point. As much as I like the game, I don't think it's that. I don't think NBA 2K 21 or 22 or whatever the fuck it was this year is worth the $125 or 69 US for. I don't think any of those games are. There's Resident Evil, I could make a case for. Yes, absolutely. I think that is a different story. But those other games, especially a game like Returnal, which is not. It doesn't feel like it's not. I don't know. What do you call Last of Us? Is that like a 4A game at this stage? Like, what is the
blockbuster?
Right. So yeah, I agree with you in terms of the pricing. I think it's too high, but it's also, I don't know if it's their fault at this stage. Like, it's just that is the nature of games going forward that we're going to see on console. It's just going to be priced that much. If this was a PC release, there's no way they would get away with that much money. It'd be
absolutely fucking not.
It'd be maybe half of that price, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my problem with it, right? I don't think it'd sell at $60 on PC.
I think it'd sell more. It'd sell more if it was $30 difference. Like, if it was the I don't know, you get some games in Australia where it was like it is $59 or something. Like, it wasn't the max price, but it was a little bit cheaper. I think you'd end up selling more copies of this game. It could also be a fact of they don't need to do it because people want a PlayStation 5 game, right? They're going to buy it. It's like the first big PlayStation. Yeah. So
that's it. Yeah, that is a deal. That is a thing that annoys me about this game. But the only other thing that really annoys me about this game is I shouldn't ever get stuck on fucking geometry in a fucking third-person shooter when I'm running around. It just shouldn't fucking happen. Not at all. Like, it doesn't happen in other fucking games. Like, it doesn't happen in Dark Souls. They should not have little things sticking out, and then I get fucking blacked by some shit. I'm like, what? Hang on, what the fuck got me? And it's
A tree.
some like, yeah, like tree branch sticking out a slight bit out of the fucking ground. Nah, fuck that shit. Get rid of all that shit. Slippery fucking walls, people. Slippery fucking walls in games like this. It doesn't matter if I can't, like, you can't jump on these fucking trees anyway. Not that anyone wants to. It's the most aggravating way. I would say, the ways I took, like, after, like, when I did my run where I didn't die and I finished the game, the ways I took damage, right, were I split 3 ways between boss fights. I took damage in boss fights for sure. I took damage jumping into pools of water or down ledges, or I took damage because I got stuck on geometry and my movement got all fucked up and I stopped moving and then I died. That's how I took damage. Or I didn't die. I took damage and lost a bunch of health and was very annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bananas. That shit. So yeah, it shouldn't happen. But nevertheless, I did really, really enjoy myself with it. Yeah, I think it is like the story. I love the story, man. I think they do such a good job of the way they tell it. I worry that they don't really go far enough or in the direction that I would like. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's like I don't know, criticizing the last line when I love the rest of a movie type shit. Like,
Sure.
doesn't make any sense. The storytelling, it's this really good fucking Lovecraftian shit. The lead narrative designer apparently works on Control as a narrative designer. And I think you can sort of see that, right? I feel like I can see it.
Yeah,
it's sort of home.
Yeah, now that you mention that, yeah, absolutely. It's very atmospheric and like weird things going on and yeah, that's cool. All right. Anything else to add for Returnal?
No, I don't think so. If you got a PS5 and you can find it for less than $130, heartily recommend it. Yeah. Oh, turn on auto run. Have you turned on auto sprint?
I did. It took me a while to get used to it because the platforming can get a bit tricky sometimes when you're trying to get on a small ledge and fucking she's running really quickly around and things like that.
You got the fucking grapple now, right?
They just got it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing we didn't mention. It's like this Metroidvania thing where you like unlock a new biome and you kill a thing and then it gives you a new item and then all of a sudden the first biome has a bunch of stuff that you can go in and do and unlocks extra areas and you go exploring there. And I had something happen last night where I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Like, that is insane. Where I opened a door and it led me to somewhere and I was like, I was not expecting to be here at all. And yeah, that was wild. So it does some cool stuff like that.
A really cool sense of discovery that I think it does a really good job of. But yeah, now that you got the grappling hook, you shouldn't die. You should never die again. You will never die again. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but with auto sprint on and the grappling hook, as long as there's a grappling point, I can't die. I will not. Never die.
A lot around.
They start to put more in the game.
Yeah, later on.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's very good. People should check it out.
Yes.
Okay, our last game we've got here is Resident Evil Village. This is out at the end of this week, probably by the time you hear this. I had a chance to review this game for Survivor.com. You can go check out my review now. It went up a couple of hours ago.
It's your best review, I reckon.
Yeah,
best review of yours I've read. I reckon you did a really good job with it. Like, you just I think what it is set the tone really well, and I think he did a really good job of establishing your uh, opinions and your thesis, and then
Mm.
you developed that thesis really well, just in a really clear way. I think you always like establish your opinions really well. I think you just made it really clear in this one, which is good.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So basically, like, I really liked Resident Evil 7 going into this. This was obviously their first uh, foray into a first-person horror game. Um, my biggest gripe with the way Resident Evil 7 sort of ended was the that weird like boat sequence that just seemed it just didn't fit the rest of that game at all. And so I think it's the best Resident Evil game that I've played. I'm not a huge Resident Evil fan. Um, I'm not like fully into the lore and all that sort of stuff, but I just really appreciated what that game did, and sort of like the balls of just taking a series like that and just completely turning it on its head. So I had a lot of fun with that game, and I think they just did such a great job with the horror elements and doing like different styles of horror as well. Just weird things like having your creepy ghost ladies and then doing like things like a Saw style type horror stuff. So I really dug that game quite a lot. Um, and so when you sort of connect that to Resident Evil 8, they've sort of taken that, the things that made Resident Evil 7 so good, and I think they've continued that for the most part pretty well. Like the base foundation of that game, but there's just so many things in Resident Evil Village that I just do not like, and I think they've just done a really poor job of handling from the shift in horror. I think is a lot different this time around. It is it's not like jump scare horror anymore. It is very like tension based horror. And I
Well,
think
that's
that
good.
could be just a fact of the expectation from me of being like, oh, when the fuck is the jump scare happening? The entirety of this game, I was like, there is going to be a point where I climb up a ladder and there's going to be either someone standing there or I'm going to climb down a ladder and my guy will turn around and there's going to be something standing there. That never happened once. And I,
See, that's different, right? Because I don't think because right, like a jump scare is the when they want the payoff without the build up, right?
sure.
But when it's like tension building, 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 and then you get like, you go down the ladder and there's someone there. That's not a jump scare. That's just a scare, right? That's just
Sure.
a scare. And so without that, that's that's the fucking
Hmm.
the blue balls of the horror game.
Yeah.
That's shit-tastic.
Yeah, it keeps you on your edge. And so I think that they're just different types of horror at the end of the day. I saw something going around today. I don't know how true this is, but like the director talked about how people felt that the last game was too scary. And so
Right.
that's why they toned things down. This is after I written my review, and I saw it in someone else's review somewhere. I can't remember because I've looked at so many today. Um, but anyway, so I think the if you found that last game too scary, this is a different type of horror. It's much easier to digest, and for me, I didn't enjoy it as much. But aside from that, like there's other aspects of the game that I just couldn't get into. I guess I'll kick things off with like the story. It's set. You're still playing the same character, Ethan Winters. It's set 3 years after the events of Resident Evil 7 and the Baker house, where all that just weird, crazy stuff happened with all the members of the family and basically you looking for your wife who went missing, and so you end up getting her back at the end of the story. And so this is set a couple of years after where Chris Redfield has like set you up in a protection house in somewhere in Europe. It doesn't say where it is, but it's somewhere in Europe, and you're with your newborn daughter Rose, and one night just the shit goes crazy. Like Chris comes stomping through the house, shoots Mia. Uh, Ethan is like going off his head, like yelling at him. And then
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, basically it's like cut to black, and then it fades back into you. You're standing in your house, your front door. There's people like taking your daughter away. Chris is there like giving you like one-liners, and Ethan is yelling like, "What are you doing? Why are you taking my daughter?" Next thing you know, you get like fucking butt stopped with a gun, and you black out your character. The next thing is you awaken, and on the side of the road in the snow, the van you were traveling in is flipped on its head, and that is when the game starts. You start wandering through the snow. There's all these weird noises around you. You see like something run past your peripheral as you're creeping through this snow. You've got a flashlight. It's pitch black. You can kind of just see around you. You start exploring a couple of houses. Eventually, sunset starts to like chime in, and you find yourself in this village, which, Resident Evil Village. It is the central hub for this game, basically. You start like exploring a couple of rundown buildings. Like, it's clear that this place is not. It doesn't look lived in. There's, it looks very run down. But you can start exploring, going through, picking up items, collecting things. It is a very much it's a Resident Evil game. It's a survival horror game, and so eventually you find a weapon, a gun. Some stuff happens. A bunch of things happen, which I won't spoil. But eventually there is a fight that breaks out, and there are these werewolf-like creatures that attack you, and they are the main sort of enemies of the game. They're referred to as lichens. I appreciate that they are doing weird fucking things in this world. It is it's always been about this zombie outbreak, and then the last game was very much like a weird fucking ghosts and creepy family, and now this game is like werewolves and vampires and shit. I think that is really interesting and cool. But anyway, this particular fight is the very first encounter in the game that you have. You've got a weapon, you've got ammo, you have a bunch of supplies on you, and off you go. And the first time you get attacked, you end up in this like rundown house, and as you're being chased, the game sort of tells you like, hey, you can barricade yourself in. And so you can grab this bookcase, slide it into the front door's path, and that'll block enemies from getting in. But then like these guys are like banging on windows. They're like, they've got their arms like sticking through window holes and like trying to attack you. And there's like a hole in the roof, and one of them comes like jumping down through the roof and attacks you. And so you're getting like overrun by these werewolf creatures. And so basically you're trying to survive. So I start running around. I'm killing things. I'm running through houses. There are these like flour bags spread out throughout the world, and you can swipe them, and he'll hit them, and it'll create like a cloud of dust, flour, and you can obscure their vision and hide around them and things like that.
Oh,
so
is that what those are for? Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And so you do that anyway. And so I'm running around. I'm fucking killing all these things. I'm killing them. And I'm running into another house. I'm closing that door. I'm shooting them through like the cracks in the foundation. And then I'm slowly running out of ammo at this stage. I think I'm pretty good at shooters, like at least on the console. I know I'm supposed to be aiming for heads. They take about 3 headshots most of the time on these things. Takes a couple. Once you upgrade your weapons, they get a bit less, but they take a couple of hits. Anyway, so I'm running around, and I eventually die in this section. And the game ends. And so it reloads me back to that first initial part. I do the same thing. I'm running through houses, closing these bookshelves and blocking off doors and shooting things, and I end up dying again. And this happens like 3 or 4 times. There is an outside area where you can run around, and there's like red barrels set up and that sort of thing. Eventually, as I'm killing these things, they just seem to keep on coming, like attacking me. This giant beast of a man jumps down. You've seen him in the trailers. He's got this huge hammer. He's fucking hairy. He's got long hair. He's got a giant beard. He starts chasing you around as well. And I figure out that if I go into one of the houses, he can't really. He's too big. He can't get me in there. So I'm like standing in the house, like chipping away, just shooting him, doing my thing. But I just can't. I can't survive. I keep dying. I keep running out of ammo, and I can't see anything out in the world that is like telling me, "Hey, you need to go do this thing," or there's no objective mark or anything like that. Eventually, I am I'm running around, and something happens to me where I'm about to die, and all of a sudden I am teleported to the middle of the fight outside. Um, I've got no health. Everything goes immediately quiet. There's no more enemies around me. They've all disappeared. There's a gate that was next to me that wasn't open before is now open, and there's this weird fucking creepy lady standing there. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? At that point, I knew something broke, right? There's something happened there. And so I reloaded the checkpoint. And it put me in exactly the same spot as where I was just standing with no health. That door was open and that lady is still standing there. And I'm like, something just broke. And so the problem at that point is I messaged Steve at Survivor to find out where he was at. He hadn't started playing it because it literally, I found out I was reviewing this game. I had it downloaded in 20 minutes and started playing like immediately. And so I didn't know like where he was at or whatever, but he hadn't started yet. And so
I downloaded this 60 gigabyte game in 20 minutes because of my fucking San Fran fucking big internet pipes. All right, yeah. Okay.
I called the Google and told them to speed things up a bit. So yeah, something broke. I ran into some sort of weird bug, so I ended up restarting the game entirely. So I lost about an hour and a half worth of progress. I just ran back to where I needed to be. I knew exactly what I was doing at that point. Got to that spot, died again, and was like I didn't know what I was supposed to do at this stage. Like I was so confused because it seemed like I killed so many of these fucking werewolf things, and they just kept on coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to kill the big thing because I was like kiting him around and like shooting barrels and trying to get him to die that way, but I just kept running out of ammo. I didn't have enough ammo on me. I was using like I'd only just gotten into this village. And then something happened as I was running around. I got grabbed from behind. There's this fucking werewolf creature dude yelling in my face, and he throws me out in the middle of the open to the middle of the snow in the river that I was like laying in. And then all these creatures start like surrounding me. And the big beastie dude that's been running around is like in my face. And it's this like cutscene that is playing. And so that plays out. Some more things happen. They end up running away. My character stands up. I'm in the exact spot that I was standing before when the game bugged out. The door is open and that lady is now there. And so now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I know what happened. But for some reason, some weird bug ended up going on, and I don't know, that cutscene didn't play out for me the last time. But anyway, I'm at the spot where I was before. And so the problem here is I now know what happens. Anytime that I was inside of a house and died, I died. What the game wanted me to do was lose, but it wanted me to lose outside of a house so that it could throw me into the middle of the map or the town and then trigger that cutscene. But because I was running around barricading doors, which the game taught me how to do, I was shooting werewolves through cracks, climbing ladders and shooting them from the rooftops, crawling through crawl spaces in houses and trying to get away from them and deal with them that way. That's not what the game wanted me to do. I was outsmarting the game. And so I saw through like they were trying to teach me a magic trick. And I was like, oh, I can see what you're doing. Like the ball is over here. You're like, hey, look at the ball. And I'm like, I don't want to look at the ball. Like I'm going to watch this hand over here. That is the problem with Resident Evil Village, is that it tries to trick the player a number of times, and if you're savvy enough to see the trick that is being played out, I think it ruins the experience for you. And it's most like I appreciate when games do that. Certain games do that, and they do it well. But in a game that is so reliant on a survival aspect of collecting resources, of managing your ammo and the things that you find around you in order to survive, whether it's that ammo or the health, but by you trying to survive is the wrong thing that you should be doing without you knowing it, that is an issue. And I think that being the very first encounter that I had where I could shoot things and scavenge items, and for them to be like, "Ha, we tricked you. You can't win this fight anyway." That's fucked, because at the end of the day, that is in my mind the entire time. And every time I get into a fight, I'm like, should I be shooting this thing, or is there something else that I should be doing? And sometimes that could be too late. I could be wasting a bunch of ammo on something, and all of a sudden I'm halfway through. I'm like, oh, what's this button do? I'll press that button, and I press it, and something else fucking happens. Like, oh, I've just wasted all that stuff on this, like this precious resource that is around the world that it's taken me so long to find. I shouldn't have been doing that anyway. And so, yeah, that is
that makes like that's happened before to me,
hmm.
and it is devastating when it does, when it happens, when you see how, like, when you can see how the sausage is made.
Yep.
It's impossible to come back from, right? Like, it is glass shattering,
Right.
and once that glass, you can't unring that bell, right? Like, it's done. And like, I think I really appreciated that you went into lots of depth about that in your review as well. How, like, you know, obviously on this podcast, I really appreciate how you like clarify that, like how devastating that can be. Because yeah, like, what are you supposed to do in a game when it fucks you like that, when it fucks up like that? That's not,
it's not
like,
even
the
just
rest
about
of
the
it's not
fuck
on
up
you, right?
of like the bug. To me, the bug was a separate instance. It was the it wants me to die in a certain way.
Is the indoors thing not a bug as well? Like, surely,
yeah, something should happen. Like, it should
right?
drag me out. I'm just
Yeah,
like, you're dead. Reload checkpoint. I'm like, okay.
right. Like, the way you describe it, if it can't, it's such a massive oversight if it isn't a bug, right? Like, that would be absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
But like, you can't review based on not your experience. So
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
happened to me.
yeah, right. And like, I mean, fuck, man. Maybe it isn't a bug. If it's not if they don't release a patch to fix it, then maybe that's intended. And in which case, like you said, it's a fucking huge mistake. It's a massive error, because it's not like, you know, you were talking about how you didn't want to look at the ball, right? But that's not even it. The way, like, you know, I've only played the demo, but there is a natural, like, it makes sense that you would barricade yourself inside a fucking house when a billion fucking werewolves are coming out. Like, there is a fucking logical consistency to the concept that makes what you did not some sort of error on your part.
Yeah.
And that makes it bad on their part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which,
Because
it's just bad design.
I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to be like, hey, you die. Like, you can't, even if it wasn't like you can't win the scenario. But
Yeah.
the problem is that, like, I was dying inside of a house. They could have knocked me out, and then I could have woken up in the middle of the fucking the snow, and had the same thing play out. I think that was the problem, is they were trying to get me to go outside so they could throw me, or to trigger that animation. But because I'm inside a house, maybe that can't happen. either way, like there's a sequence. This isn't the only time where I think they try and trick the player into something. There's a sequence later on that I really distinctly remember, and I won't go into too much detail, but basically, it starts throwing like a lot of enemies at you, and you need to get from the bottom of this like cave-like structure to the top, and I basically at that stage I was doing pretty well in terms of my ammo and that sort of thing. And I basically got myself in a corridor and I started just popping these dudes in the head. And like I dropped like 10 of them. And then I started working my way in and then more of them came. And so I backed up a little bit more, killed a bunch of them. And then like more of them coming. And so I'm like, now I'm like circling around this thing. And they just kept on coming and coming and coming. And so I ended up dying in that section. Then I did it again. And this time I started working my way, rather than just kiting them back up that hallway, I started working my way to where I think it needed one me to go. As I'm shooting all these things, and like as you're escalating this cave, they're like climbing the walls, and you can just see them everywhere. There's tons and tons of them, and I get to the very top, and they just tons and tons of dudes just still spawning and coming in and killing me. And eventually, I'm using like so much ammo at this point. Like I've gone through so many clips and all this type of shit. I'm like running low on shotgun ammo and my normal ammo. And I end up dying again up there. And I'm like, man, fucking, what the hell? And so the next time, I literally sprinted all the way past these guys, climbed up this ladder, fucking used the zip line that was there, got to the very top, and then killed there's this enemy type that's got like a helmet on him and a bunch of like razor claws on each hand. I killed him. He was like the biggest enemy that was in the room. And then I killed like 4 more people, and then nothing else spawned. And I'm like, so all you wanted me to do, it was like a Call of Duty moment.
Yeah.
It was like it's forcing me to move forward, right? And it
Yeah.
wants me to get to the very top by throwing all these things at me. But I can just run past all that stuff and save
Yeah.
all my ammo. And once I was like, oh, well, there's a trick to this, I can just do that. And so I did that, and I was like, cool, done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I figured out what it was trying to do, like another triggered event. Otherwise, it probably
Yeah.
would have just kept spawning shit at me, and I'm sitting there
You would have
wasting all this
wasted all
stuff.
your stuff.
And there's a
Yeah.
possibility that I don't figure that out, and like every other player wastes a ton of ammo and gets to the top and kills that thing, and they go on their merry way, but they haven't realized that they've just like lost fucking 8 or 9 rooms worth of scavenging, and all that ammo is gone now.
And it's not a problem in Call of Duty. It's by design in Call of Duty, and it works
Hmm.
because you aren't scavenging for all that shit, because you haven't fucking scrimped and saved all these
Yeah,
resources. So when it throws you into, well, literally every Call of Duty fucking level is like this, or almost every Call of Duty level is like that. It's not a fucking problem because you didn't have to worry. Like, you aren't worried about your resources. The resources aren't a fucking concern in that game. The only
yeah,
time you're worried about how much ammo you have is when you have to fucking reload, and that is it. But in a game like Resident Evil, yeah, that's a fucking dick move. Like,
hmm.
it feels like such a fucking shitty fucking move.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
You know, you search a house and you find in the drawer 15 bullets of ammo for your pistol, and that'll kill like 3 enemies. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and you might go through a couple rooms and find stuff. There's anyway, so that was my biggest issue, is that like this whole uh it's a survival game, and yet it felt like there's too many things in the game that has me worried in the back of my mind. Well, am I doing the wrong thing? Or like, is all this ammo and all these resources going to waste? Should I have healed myself 3 times? Because maybe that wasn't worth it. Um, anyway, there's like crafting, and you can level up weapons, and that stuff is really cool and fun to do. There's hunting in the game for some weird reason, which you can turn in for boosts in the game. You can either give yourself more health or more defensive protection. There are what else is there? There is I already said that, cooking, right? I don't know. Combat is
Yeah.
it's all right. It's fine. Um, There are a lot of different guns you can get. You won't unlock them all in the first playthrough. Um, there's stuff that you can play in New Game Plus. You can take all your stuff that you've unlocked, take it back into the game, and start getting even more weapons and unlocks and upgrading those weapons. So I kind of appreciate that there's some replay value there because you can play it through a second time and then start getting the even more powerful weapons and go through it again. Like um, you're not just playing the same game again and using all the cool shit that you've already got. You're actually working towards even more cool shit, um, which is cool. The shooting is, I think this game would work a lot better on PC. I played on PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the direction for the combat, like the enemies have this very sporadic or animated movement to them where they dodge and weave a lot. So
Yeah.
in a game where I think headshots matter quite a bit in this game, even though they take quite a bit of damage. Getting those headshots are valuable, and so lining up your reticle to try and get those you got to be patient. So I think it'd work a lot better on PC, but it's fine. There's like a block button for some reason, and that is underutilized immensely. I only used it a couple of times. Maybe it's more valuable in the harder difficulties as you keep playing, but it negates a bunch of damage. I just didn't feel the use for it here at all, really. Um, it seems worthless, and it's not like the game tells you to use it a lot. It kind of gives you the tutorial like, hey, you can block, and then that is it. It disappears again. Um, the adaptive triggers on the PlayStation 5 for this game, I don't like the implementation. I think it's very finicky. There's a bit of resistance when you pull down the trigger, and then you press the fire button, and you get you know that like clicky motion, like it feeling like there's some pressure there, but it's not resetting properly every time you fire. And so sometimes that pressure is there, and other times it's like it's not, it's like completely gone. And so you get into this weird motion where there's sometimes like every second shot it's resisting, and it just feels weird when that happens. And so I think they just kind of stuffed that up. It made me appreciate when I jumped into Returnal just how much better those adaptive triggers felt in that game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. The frame rate on the PlayStation 5 is a little bit hitchy with the ray tracing settings on. The game runs from what I understand, 45 to 60 frames per second. For the most part, it feels good. Um, I don't know if it's. I have to wait for Digital Foundry or whoever to do a proper analysis of it. But if it's running at 45, I think that's a really interesting uh, spot for games like this because it felt great. Maybe it's running at 60. I don't know. But if it's 45, that's cool. I like that a lot for first-person shooters on the console. It does
Yeah.
struggle in certain areas. There is one section where it drops quite a lot. I would say it's probably in the teens, maybe the low 20s. But it's not a combat section, so it's not a huge issue at all. It's mostly puzzle based, but still noticeable. And every once in a while, you can see frame drops, but for the most part, it's pretty solid on console, and it looks great. Like it's using ray tracing. The technology is awesome. It's a really pretty game. There's so much detail in it. The first like location you go to in the castle, just the way the lighting bounces off and the colors and the way like the hallways are decked out, and there's just so much detail in all this sort of stuff. It is really cool. Um, Speaking of the castle, the game is set up so that like Ethan is sort of looking for his daughter. He's been told that like she's still around and something's happened to her, and basically he needs to go through the big bad of the game, Mother Miranda, who has these four lords that serve her, and we know of one of them. Who has received like a lot of marketing over the
Mm.
last couple of months, Lady Dimitrescu, and she is this tall vampire-like creature. I think her official stat was like 9 foot tall or something like that,
Right.
and Alongside her is a couple of other different characters we've seen in some of the marketing, but for whatever reason, the internet really gravitated towards this character. Um, and it's funny because like the characters in the game are just so bland and boring, and she might be one of the most uninteresting with minimal screen time. She is not in it long at all. Um, she's also implemented extremely badly. Uh,
Mm,
like basically, you think of I think is his name Mr. X? He's basically like this
yeah.
stalking dude in Resident Evil, but I'm not, as I said, not a huge Resident Evil fan. Um, Alien Isolation was this stalking presence that would follow you around and try and uh, keep you from doing tasks and that sort of thing. And that is kind of what she is in this castle, except she pops up every once in a while in certain areas as you're doing stuff, but she's never like giving you any grief. She kind of just follows you around and will stab you, and then you run away and oh shit. Um, you can't kill her, nothing like that. But the thing is, she's on like a fucking she's on like rails basically. Like you can see where she is walking up and down these hallways, and she's on a set path, and you can go and like aggro her and literally fucking get rid of like her scent, like lose a scent, and she'll go back on her path, strutting around and walking around. The funniest thing is that there is a save point in one of the rooms in the demo. It is behind one of the doors in the main demo, basically, and in that main hallway with the chandelier and that leads into the kitchen, and you got the stairs that go up. Basically, behind the locked door is another room there. There's a save point in that room, and she can chase you. You get to that room, and she'll immediately stop and just fucking stare at you while the door is open, and she takes about 10 seconds, and she'll turn around and then go back on her path and walk in a line again, and you can leave the room and then off you go. See you later. It's just like such basic. Like it's not scary at all once you figure out she's a robot.
We are at a point, right?
She's not a robot, by the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
She's a computer.
Hey kid, I'm a computer.
Yeah.
Like with the existence of Alien Isolation, I don't think a AAA blockbuster horror game
Mm-hmm.
can get away with that kind of shit anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like Alien Isolation was about 8 times too long, but it set a standard, right? Like that's it. That's the base level for fucking horror games now, in my opinion. And you can't fucking have a game that goes all the way back to fucking patrol paths like they're fucking Metal Gear Solid 1 fucking guards or some shit. That's fucking crazy. It's bananas to me.
Yeah. I feel like I recall something similar happening in Resident Evil 7 with the dude with the chainsaw. Wasn't he like fucking cutting down walls and stuff? Like that was more menacing. He was stalking you, but like coming through walls and chasing you with this giant chainsaw. And that is what she is supposed to be like, but I think she's just so underutilized and not interesting. And you know, like I said, I think it's just funny that people gravitated towards her, and I think she's terribly underutilized. I think there are other characters in this game that are more interesting. There is, I think the castle is definitely like old school Resident Evil, where you're exploring this giant place and unlocking shortcuts and completing puzzles, and that stuff is like that's the best part of this game is all that sort of stuff, the exploration and solving all those puzzles and going through it, and it works really well because like each of these lords that you go through have like a different sort of twist on what they're doing. There is another one, and I think it's the best part of the like best section of the game because I think it's the most interesting. But she's basically like a doll, like a ventriloquist doll that is one of the lords, and you go to her house and you lose your weapons and you've got no weapons, and it's basically like a fucking big puzzle room, a puzzle house. And
Right.
you're
Works
not
in heaven.
shooting your way through things, or
Yeah.
you're solving all these Rubik's cube type puzzles, and I don't know. I felt that was more interesting to me, and and
Because you like puzzle games.
yeah, like puzzle games. Anyway, but I think there's just more interesting characters going on in that game. Um, until it gets to like the third act again, I think it's got a huge amount of issues. In particular, it stops sort of being a horror game and it gets a lot more actiony. Like I was talking
Yeah.
about before, throwing like tons and tons of enemies at you, and you start to lose the like tension even then, because there's just so much stuff going on. Like you just expect all this to happen all the time. Um, there's a one of the lords has weird fucking X-Men powers, and I don't know how to explain that, but he's in there, and then eventually in the third act there's a scene, and I won't go into story spoilers, but it's like a if you were to show me that and then not tell me what it was, I'd have been like, that's Call of Duty. It is fucking insane that that level exists in this game. I know some people will get a kick out of it, but I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is nuts. Uh, like what happened to my horror game? And so I didn't appreciate that bit at all. And then the game kind of just wraps up, and I just don't think the story is interesting. Like it is so dumb. There are so many plot holes in the story. It's just like if the thing I wrote in my review is like if anybody just stopped and fucking spent 5 seconds talking to one another, this game would have been an hour long. But
Yeah.
instead, it's a 10-hour game. It took me about 10 and a half hours to finish. And they try to explain things away, like, oh, this is why we did it. And it's just bad. I think it's bad writing. I don't think it fits into the, like, if people are playing this for that juicy Resident Evil story, like, oh, what happens? There's stuff in here that is, like, tied back to those other games. But for the most part, this is a sequel to Resident Evil Village. And there's some, which is focusing around Ethan and his family. And there's some stuff that ties into, like, all the Umbrella shit and is it called the T virus and all that sort of stuff, but they don't really go deep on it. Unless eventually someone fucking writes a book on it, but I'm sure they will. It's just
Yep.
like it just doesn't feel like it's tied in any meaningful way to the rest of the stuff that happens. So it just didn't grab me. I know it didn't grab Steve at all. He said he didn't like it. He's a huge Resi fan over at Survivor, so I don't think the story's that great. What else can I talk about? Just the I think there's some weird like design decisions too. I talked about like the tricking people and that sort of stuff, but even further on, like one of the first things that you get in the game is a some bolt cutters in order to open a lock. Right? There's a gate, there's a lock.
Yep.
You need the bolt cutters to open the gate, and then like not too soon over, you get into another door and there's a fucking lock on it. You're like, all right, I need to find the bolt cutters. No, you don't need bolt cutters. You can just shoot this lock.
Right.
Like the game literally spends time to go get you to find these bolt cutters to open a chain lock.
Yeah.
And the next time you see a chain lock, you just shoot it. You don't need the
Yep.
bolt cutters. You couldn't shoot the last one, but this one you have to shoot. And the
And
rest of the
so-
game, you shoot locks. And it's just like, what? This doesn't make any sense at all. It's just
Yeah.
weird things like that where I'm just like, I don't know, that is a bit dumb.
Yeah.
So that's weird. The sound design is fantastic. They do an awesome job of like atmospheric, like when you're in that castle and you hear Lady D walking around, stomping above you somewhere, and like weird creaking behind you. That stuff is really atmospheric. I played this whole thing with headphones on. Sounds amazing. And that's kind of what you want in a horror game, right? You want to feel like there is someone behind you at all times because you're hearing strange noises, and that stuff is done really well. What else can I talk about? I don't know, man. Boss fights are terrible.
Cool.
Boss fights
That's-
are just like not exciting or interesting. It's a lot of rinse and repeat. Do this 3 times. The very last boss fight feels, like you don't get a sense of, if you're doing the right thing, it's like you're shooting this boss and you're like, am I doing damage? Am I hurting this thing, or is anything going on? There's no like feedback to say, hey, the thing you're doing is working. It just eventually works. You're like, all right, cool. Guess I was doing the right thing. So yeah, I think like there's some like Resident Evil 7 was a really solid game, and I think they maybe got spooked a bit too much and were like, well, we got to tone down a bunch of these things, and there's other things here that we can sort of tinker around with, and we'll see how they work, and we'll get there. There's definitely stuff that I really like in this game, like the map design. I think is fantastic. Having the village be the central hub, and then go out and clear each of the Lord's areas, and then like do a bunch of backtracking and finding keys to open doors that you couldn't open before. It's not quite like a Dark Souls thing. There's a couple of those things where you find shortcuts and stuff, but it feels a bit more connected. As each of these areas go on, you like come back to an area, and there's things that have sort of changed a little bit, and that stuff is really cool. So, there's hints of things that are there. It's just like these weird, bizarre choices in between that I just do not understand. So, yeah, for me, like I still had fun playing this game, and I'd recommend it to Resident Evil fans. It's just I saw a lot of problems with it. I just, as much as I had fun, I think it's a good game. It just ain't. I don't think it's like an 8.5 or 9, which is what I think Resident Evil 7 was, because it was such like a huge departure. They took so many awesome risks in it. It was just like, holy fuck, like this is insane. This is a Resident Evil game. And this kind of feels like we went too far. Like they just didn't try and do anything drastically different. And when they did, they just did it poorly. So that's where I kind of stand on it. Once you finish the game, there's a mode that unlocks called Mercenaries, and that's kind of like a time attack game where you kill a bunch of werewolves, fucking lichens, and you get points. You do combos and chain combos to get more points. There's power ups, and you can unlock other guns and that sort of thing. Extra levels, so there's some replay value there. When you do that, you earn. I think they call it CP. I'm going to go with CP, just because everything's called CP.
Can't we just call it something else?
Let's go Capcom points. They'll probably sell it at some stage, those cheeky fuckers.
Not call it anything else, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Anyway, you spend the CP on unlocks. It's either some of it is like artwork and 3D models and that sort of thing, but there are stuff like, hey, infinite ammo, or unlock this weapon, and so you could jump in there and do all that sort of stuff. But also when you finish the game, it comes up and says, hey, here's all the challenges that you completed in the game, and it'll mark off things, and it could be like find 15 notes or kill 30 of these things. And so you finish the game, it gives you all your CP for the challenge you've done, but then you can also go back into the game and redo those challenges and keep going and complete all that stuff. So like I said before, there's a ton of replay value there if you're the type of person that wants to jump in and play it multiple times on harder difficulties, and see a bunch of things you missed. But I don't know, man, like I enjoyed it, but it's just like I was kind of expecting more from it. So yeah, I don't know if there's much else for me to say about it. I feel like I covered most of it. The last thing that threw me off is, and this sounds like a nitpick, but everybody in this village has an American accent. And I mean like fucking, I don't know, Eastern European Transylvania village. And that just threw me off every time. I'm like, why are there so many fucking Americans in this village? That is a nitpick from me. But anyway, I don't know, man. Any questions at all? Like, I know I've been super negative, and I've even in my review I talked about most of the negative stuff, because like I like Resident Evil 7, and I think there's that base foundation, that sort of gameplay loop of slowly killing things is still there, and that stuff is really cool. They refine all that. It's just all these nagging issues that I could see from a design perspective and gameplay that I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. That just kind of gets in the way.
Yeah. No, I don't have any questions, man. You've been pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
I read your review and then I went to the comments because I'm like, oh, here we go. Here
Oh,
we go.
I saw these
Mostly,
before.
the ones I read were all positive. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? If I'd written this, these cunts would be fucking all up me. They'd be like, oh, fuck this guy, fuck you, fuck this fucking shit. And I'm like, hold
Yeah.
up. 6.5 out of 10 for a really like, a really anticipated fucking game. And everyone's fucking happy with it? What the fuck is this shit? Fuck this.
Yeah.
God.
Because I messaged when Steve and I were getting this ready to go on the site last night. I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting to get up tomorrow and see everybody yelling at me because basically I gave it my review on Survivor is 6.5. I think I am the second lowest on Metacritic at the moment.
It's like a 3 out of 5. So a 6.
What's that?
I think there's a 3 out of 5.
Really?
So
it was a 5, I think, today.
Huh? Oh,
okay,
right.
I'm the third lowest on Metacritic. There's a 5 and a 6.
Yeah.
The Metacritic score is an 84 at the moment, so I'm a little bit below par. But I basically said like I'm looking forward to getting up tomorrow and going through my messages and seeing who's fucking sending me death threats and telling me to kill myself. Anyway, all the comments on there, at least when I last checked, were positive. A well-written review. After looking at the game leaks myself, the story, I can definitely agree with the review.
Right? Good review. I agree and believe that the game has issues. This dude's like, oh, what's a game that would actually please reviewers? Well, yeah, fair enough.
Please that review. I think because what I give Demon Souls a 7 or something last time. 7.5. Yep. This one says your Lady D sounds as oblivious as my alien in isolation. Hard to be scared of a stalker that works endlessly.
That's got to be a bug. That's the old because like the entire game is built around it actually being far better than that. But yeah, oh well, that sucks for that dude.
Yeah, thank you for your critical reviews and don't back down from them. All right.
What the actual shit is going on here?
I sent a message in our Discord being like, I've woken up in Bizarro World.
Gold. You're the lowest score in the world for Demon Souls.
Yeah, I know.
Because you saw my review and you snaked it from me. That's all that happened. I published on November 19 and you published on November 20 after you'd already seen the fucking results. You gave the old Price is Right treatment.
Did I go after you? Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because I finished it faster because I'm good at games. But eventually you got there. Eventually. I mean, you can't even finish Returnal. How long you had it for? Come on. Let's go. A
couple of days.
It took me 2 days.
I had to belt through Resident Evil to get that done. They gave us some good lead time on it, which I enjoy, like just over a week.
Nice when that happens.
Anyway, like, hey, don't make my opinion detract you. I'm obviously an outlier in these reviews, but I think I'm right. So,
yeah. The Gap's always right about video games.
Yep.
We've never been wrong.
No.
All right, we have been wrong a couple of times, but usually we aren't wrong. No. We're only ever wrong when one of us disagrees with the other one.
Yeah.
Then one of us has to be wrong. Always.
Luke. Yeah. I was messaging Nate because he's been playing it as well. He seemed to be enjoying it. He was a couple acts in. I think he's finished at this stage. I haven't asked him what he thought of it since then, but yeah, like I said, I enjoyed parts of it. It's just like I can have fun. I can watch a shit movie and have fun with it. It's not a shit game. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I can critically analyze a game and like hear a bunch of issues and still enjoy it. Anyway, and I use the fucking full scale, 1 to 10, baby. None of this 8 is an average. So there it is. Resident Evil Village is out. I think by the time you hear this, it's tomorrow, right? For you guys,
Suppose, yeah.
stream. Maybe it's Friday because I think streaming is tomorrow. Streaming embargo is tomorrow.
Right.
So there you go. Maybe let us know what you think. Other people playing it, what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
All right, should we do some news? Then get out of here.
Let's do it.
Got some stuff going on. The PlayStation State of Play, which we talked about last week. This is a quick one. It went for about 20 minutes or so. They kicked things off with some Subnautica news. There is a free PlayStation 5 upgrade happening for people that have Subnautica, the original game. And they also announced that Subnautica Below Zero will be out on PlayStation for May 14th. That's PlayStation 4 and 5. So that's coming out soon. I am looking forward to jumping back into Subnautica to play the end of that story. What about you?
I will not be playing Subnautica again, but I do want to. Yeah, I want to play all of Below Zero when it drops. I'm very excited to jump in. I probably won't start over, but yeah, I'm excited. It's finally nearly here, so I can get the entire experience.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, fuck. Subnautica is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Next
I
up.
did not see the State of Play though.
Oh, okay, you didn't watch it. Fuck.
No. Yeah.
Anyway, next up, they announced Among Us is coming to consoles. They didn't really give a date. They just said this year.
Oh yeah, I saw press releases about this shit. I just didn't see it in the State of Play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird that it's taken this long. How is this going to work? A lot of people type their game, like type to.
I guess it's just voice chat, right?
Yeah, which
we can talk about in a moment, Joab. You're jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
And finally, they wrap things up with the 15-minute demo of Ratchet and Clank. Did you watch this at all?
No, I've gone dark. I watched the last gameplay trailer, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not watching anymore. I want to go in fresh. Although I was very tempted because that game looks fucking gorgeous. Every time I see it, it looks fucking awesome.
They are cutting between. I mean, Insomniac are obviously very, very talented. They did the same thing with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, where it's like they're using the in-game engine and it like seamlessly cuts backwards and forwards from that stuff. And this game, Ratchet and Clank, looks like a fucking DreamWorks movie or Pixar thing. Like there are moments where it's like two characters interacting, the camera pans around, and then all of a sudden you're playing the game again.
Fucking poor. It looks so good.
Yeah, looks amazing. Anyway, I watched it because I was hoping they would show more for the State of Play, but they showed exactly what they were saying, Ratchet and Clank. Anyway, that game looks great. Next up, we've got Sony has invested a minority stake into Discord and will be implementing the service by 2022. So by the end of this year. So that could be your solution to Among Us. If there is, I guess it's not really because it still needs in-game chat or in-game, like if you're playing with random, it's not going to chuck you in a Discord server. So
true.
Yeah, I guess you can play it with friends though.
I guess, maybe they expand their implementation or some shit. I've been wondering why more games don't try to use Discord in some manner. Do you remember, it used to be back in the day, games would like really integrate with TeamSpeak and shit. And now they all use this Vivox middleware shit, which fucks up when I try to play Hell Let Loose. It makes me sound all robot-y, apparently.
Yeah, it always sounds bad for everyone.
Yeah. Right, why not something with Discord or something? Maybe they just don't have the fucking tech. Maybe it doesn't work that way. Maybe I'm asking too much of it. We're recording over Discord right now, and it's enough for me. I don't want to pull on a thread that would ruin this setup.
Yep. Anyway, that's a good move. I've never really liked the proprietary voice comm apps that they've got on these consoles, and I mean it helps as well by having like crossplay, right? If you've got all these games that are now crossplay, if I'm on PC and you're on console because you love playing with controllers more than you do other peripherals, like we
Sure.
can both sit in a Discord server and communicate
Yeah.
using that. So works well.
When I was playing NHL and MLB with JB the other week, we were just sitting in Discord. So I didn't have sound on my console
Yeah.
because I got to choose between one or the other. He was streaming to his PC, so he was able to do both. But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, like, it would have been nice if I could have joined Discord via the Xbox. But every time I've tried to do that via the Xbox, it hasn't worked because the app integration on that console is fucking garbage. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next piece of news we've got here is some Call of Duty news. Activision has confirmed that Sledgehammer is leading the development on Call of Duty 2021, codenamed, I guess, Vanguard is the rumor. This is concerning, I feel like.
I'm not. Is
this a year you skip Call of Duty?
This is the year you only play Warzone. I mean, fuck. Like, I didn't think Black Ops Cold War was all that worth playing either, but yeah, I would not be keen. I'm not keen to play a Sledgehammer Call of Duty. Have they ever gotten it right?
Well, they did Modern Warfare, right? 2 years ago. This is the problem. See, they were on a Call of Duty was on a 3-year cycle. Things got fucked up the last couple of years, and so Sledgehammer did Modern Warfare in 2019, and now they're back on a Call of Duty again. So the issue here is
Modern Warfare good?
Yeah, I liked Modern Warfare.
No,
that was one I reviewed.
It was shit.
It was good.
Trash.
The problem is that there's such a quick turnaround on this development cycle. You had Sledgehammer working on Call of Duty Modern Warfare, doing updates for that post-release, working on Warzone, and they're also working on this new game now that they had to come in and take the lead from. I think this is going to be a disaster game.
Oh,
this one.
And apparently every Activision studio is now working on Call of Duty. Did you see this? That's the other rumor.
Beanox and all that sort of stuff.
Toys for Bob.
Really?
Fucking everyone is working on it. It's all hands on deck for Call of Duty.
What about the Australian studios probably doing the same thing, right? Wonder what they what they're helping on. Yeah.
Absolutely they are. But yeah.
Anyway, I guess we'll find out more about that in the maybe next month, June, when we hear more about Battlefield. And when does Call of Duty normally announce? Later than that, right?
Rumor has it we'll hear more about Battlefield this fucking week, man. By the end of this week.
I thought that rumor was fake.
Well, there's like fucking 7 billion fucking rumors flying around about Battlefield at this point, which means that we got to be fucking close.
Yeah.
Like the amount of rumors flying about, we've got to be fucking close. If not this week, next week for sure. I'll bet you. If you want to fucking do a fucking gap bet, I'll bet you we hear about it before next week's podcast.
Yeah.
No, not about it. You're scared.
No, because anything could happen. You could email them and tell them to put it up, and they'll do it.
They would. They're terrified of me. That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, smart not to take that bet. That is
2 more. Two more quickly. Metro Exodus on PC, the enhanced edition, is coming out tomorrow, and this is for ray tracing capable hardware only, but it will be a free update or upgrade for the people that have the original game. So this is they've gone in and like redone all the ray tracing features in Metro Exodus, which was one of the first games to really have a crack at it. And I saw Digital Foundry did they like partnered up with the Metro team and went through and showed them all the new features and some behind the scenes stuff, how they fixed up, evolved some of the lighting systems and the shadows and that sort of thing. It looks really cool. Did you ever get a chance to play Metro with the ray tracing turned on?
I haven't actually. So I should try and fucking grab a fucking copy, right?
Yeah, so this will be a free update on PC for all of those systems.
Yeah, nice.
Steam, Epic, Green
See
Man
if I can get
Gaming. I'm
one.
not sure what else. Yeah,
Sweet.
cool. Two more here. Looks like Four Corners report on the monetization of video games or in video games.
Yeah, I just want to talk about this a little bit because it was on earlier this week, and I think there was a reaction to it. Did you see anything about this or see it at all? I know you're in America.
Yeah, so I think it aired late at night. I saw people reacting to the blog posts that went up pretty negatively.
Yeah.
I watched about 30 minutes of the video the next day, or 20 minutes. I think it's like an hour-long video. So I've not seen the whole thing, but the bits that I saw seem pretty reasonable.
That's the thing, right? Like, so the blog post was bad, right?
Mhm.
I think the blog post was bad. Not. It was just it wasn't constructed very well, and I think that's the problem that it had. But like, I don't think it was saying, like, overall, it wasn't saying anything that didn't need to be said.
Right. Like it wasn't
And
a current affair. Fucking video
classic
games
beat
are
up.
ruining
Yeah,
your child's brains or something like that.
that's it, right? Like, it was focused on the video portion in particular. Felt like it was focused on the impact it has on adults, which I think is something very much worth talking about. And I think it like qualifies the concept a bit better for people. But I think there were a couple of things that happened. There was obviously, there is an element like I don't know, like in sitcoms when someone sneaks up on someone who's jumpy and they like smack them in the face,
Mhm.
right? I think there's a little bit of that, right? Like, oh, you can't sneak up on me, my karate skills, right? Like, gamers at this point are so well honed at their skills of self-defense when it comes to the media beat up that even when it's not a media beat up, the defenses activate and they fucking go all out on it. So I think there's a little bit of that, right? Because we're used to the beat up, but this wasn't a beat up. I think it was talking about some stuff that needed to be talked about. Then there was like there's another layer to it though, and I think that this didn't help. There's the layer that it talked about games, it spoke about games from an outsider's perspective, like without a deep knowledge, like that in the art, like that shit about fucking Assassin's Creed flags and stuff just shouldn't have fucking existed in that piece. It had literally
Right.
nothing. All I could think about was like, imagine being the guy. Have you heard the legend of that fucking flag shit? All right, the story goes they were 3 months out from launch, and the CEO of Ubisoft's son played Assassin's Creed and was like, "Oh, I wish I could climb that tower and get a flag." And
Wasn't it
suddenly from
feathers?
feathers, flags, something like that. And
Right.
suddenly from up on high, 3 months, they've already gone gold or some shit. And they have to like insert a bunch of fucking feathers and shit into the fucking game. Imagine being that guy. And then you're like fucking a decade and a half later, and like Australia's premier investigative journalism team are like, and this is why games are fucking predatory. And you're like, oh shit, I put
All
that
I
shit
did was
in.
put 300 feathers in the game for people to
Yeah, I just
collect.
fucking threw feathers at a fucking game, damn it.
The
How am I getting
problem was
fucked on this one?
it was tied to an achievement, and that was the issue.
Yeah, of course. But like still, like it's completely divorced from the actual issue at hand, what they should have focused on, which was predatory monetization in games, which was, the overall pitch of what the game was about, but didn't wind up being what not the overall picture what the article and the subsequent video was about, but didn't wind up being what the like that section was, and it's sort of just felt like they didn't really, and that didn't help. And then I think the other thing, the video in particular, I felt was guilty of this, was that they wrapped it in It's like a taco, right? It's like a taco, and the good stuff is the predatory ways that games keep people playing. And the bad, what they did was like that's the delicious taco meat and the cheese and the tomatoes and I don't know, lettuce and guacamole. It's lunchtime and I'm hungry. And they wrapped it in like a fucking waffle cone. They wrapped it in this fucking like spooky music and these weird fucking shots on like all black backgrounds that like if they just blurred it and had the person talking through a voice modulator, it would have been this person spoke to us on the condition of anonymity for fear that they will be murdered. Like they're so fucking spookily shot. Like it was they were coming to get you. That if while they were talking about something important, it felt like it's like it's they wrapped that taco in the wrong fucking wrapping or something. Like it's just they missed on that one. I think like they made a couple of errors in execution, but the content I think was good, and most of the content was good, and I think it's an important topic that needs to be spoken about.
Yeah.
Alex Walker did a story yesterday that was like video games don't need you to defend them, and that is 100% true. Holy shit. Video games are a runaway train. There's no more we don't need to circle the wagons anymore. We should be, if anything, circling the wagons against video games unstoppable fucking it's like the fucking Katamari and it's rolled up so much now that it can't be stopped and it's terrifying.
Yeah. There's more people getting riled up about features like this than there are people getting upset that this thing is like in games.
Exactly. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right. So should I watch the rest of that thing or?
If you want, I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's on. You can watch that on. I believe it's on ABC. If you've not seen it yet, just type in Four Corners video games and it'll pop up. It's like it's in video format on their website. And then
finally,
the last piece of news here. Take it away.
This is breaking during the podcast. While we've been recording, it's been learned that on the 11th, the Australian federal government will include in their budget a 30% digital games tax offset as part of new investment incentives in Australia, which is fucking awesome. It's been a long time coming, a real long time coming. It's a bit weird because on one hand, the IGA sort of dropped the ball, in my opinion, on that Four Corners thing because they were, defending predatory monetization in video games in a way that I don't think they should be, but that is their job. And on the other hand, this is a huge win for something that they've been lobbying for a long time. So, a weird week for them, but an awesome week for games in Australia. They need to spend apparently a minimum of $500,000 to qualify, and games with gambling elements that cannot obtain a classification will not qualify for the tax break. But nevertheless, a fucking huge deal, and we'll hopefully see loads more investment in the Australian games industry, and mean that people from Australia feel more comfortable attempting to make it in games, which is fucking awesome. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wonder. I mean, the backlash that I can see coming from here is that this doesn't really incentivize smaller studios, right? This is more aimed towards your we just talked about Activision set up in Melbourne, Sledgehammer Games.
Sledgehammer, yep.
You've got your Big Ant in Brisbane, right? You've got a bunch of other studios in Fire Monkeys is in Melbourne. Sydney's got War Gaming. I'm trying to think of all the studios that I can remember. Is that's the major ones, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think they're the core ones that if you're looking at 500,000, that's those guys. Anything
Yep.
below that, which is your indie smaller teams, is not going to be factored into this, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
But you got to walk before you run, right? Like, this is a fucking step in the right direction after years of being stuck in one place, looking in every other fucking direction with your fingers in your
Yeah.
ears. So, like,
look at all the
yeah,
films right now that are getting Australia support. Like a bunch of Marvel, like I think there's 2 getting filmed in Australia right now. Thor's just finished, or at least finished.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat was filmed. Yeah, wasn't there a second Marvel film recently? I guess the last Thor was filmed here as well.
Of course.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Is that what it was called? I haven't watched the trailer yet.
Was that here?
I thought that was in Australia.
Cool. Yeah, like the film
check.
industry has been getting these fucking breaks for fucking yonks. Television too. Like, there's been a lot of like support for the arts, but video games has always been left out. So this is a fantastic step in the right direction. Yeah, it would be awesome if it could apply a little broader, but you know, with this in place, hopefully we can start to see more stuff like it, which is awesome. And I think that a lot of like there are bodies around the country, state-based bodies around the country that will possibly be able to come together and use a couple of different things, a couple of different games to maybe qualify for the tax break. That's how it happens sometimes in smaller film productions. They'll work together to qualify. So maybe that sort of thing could happen as well. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's very fresh news right off the wire. So
I guess we have to wait for more finer details once they're released in next week. I was right. It was filmed in Sydney, that film.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's news.
Yeah. That's the news. Yeah.
That's
the podcast.
No questions. You can find us on iTunes, Android, Windows Store, Spotify, YouTube, all the places you get podcasts from. Please rate and review the show so other people find us. You can send us questions if you like to on our Discord page, thegapodcast.com/Discord. You can jump in there, leave us questions, play all sorts of geo-guess games, or just chat to people. Chat away. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/GA podcast, twitter.com/GA podcast. You can go to our YouTube page, gapodcast.com/YouTube, watch the podcast in video format. It's late this week. It's very late this week. For whatever reason, the render failed like 3 times. It's fucking driving me nuts. But I got the last one.
Intel inside, baby.
Yeah. No, I think it's Sony Vegas. I'm going to switch to something else.
It's Intel.
It's Intel. Okay, fair enough.
Should have gone AMD.
We'll see. You can also go to our website, thegapodcast.com, and check out all those links we just mentioned. If you're not sure, you can't remember them, just go to that website. It'll help you out, take you to everything we've got going on. We've got old podcasts on there. We've got some feature articles from Joab doing some Elite Dangerous with his casual fucking Xbox controller, because that's how he plays games most these days.
Sure.
Not going to buy it. And then you can also support the podcast if you go to patreon.com/GA podcast, become a recurring member, get the podcast a little bit earlier once it goes up. And we appreciate everyone's support, and that helps us pay the bills, keep the podcast running, and start going. So thank you very
Thank you so much.
Anything you want to pimp out for this week you've been working on?
No.
No. All right. Fair enough. Where can people find you on the internet?
On the internet, at Joey Jojo on Twitter. Same if you put it into YouTube to go watch that video, or on this podcast.
Yep. You can find me twitter.com/Luke Lawrie, LAWRIE. You can also go to Stevivor.com, check out my Resident Evil Village review. Go in the comments, tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. You'll be the first one. So go check that out.
You like to fight his legions of fans.
Yeah. All right, that is it for this week. I thought it was a good show. A lot going on.
Oh yeah. Great show.
Next week we'll be back to Trash Fire where nothing is out. And
back to nothing.
Back to nothing.
I'm not playing Resident Evil, so we're back to nothing.
Yeah. All right, that is it. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.